Welcome back to another exciting episode of Dad Talk Today. It is the weekend, and we are so glad that you are here with us. We have got an important conversation going on today. It's one of the most requested conversations that we've had. So if you're watching this, please do me a favor. I want you to like, share, subscribe. Make sure you're going to YouTube, subscribing, ding that bell. If you would like to support this show and everything that we're doing on Cash App and Venmo, Dad Talk Today, no spaces. We also have Patreon. We also have memberships on YouTube, Super Chats. We have it on memberships on Facebook and stars and all that other stuff. But now that I've got that out of the way, I want to introduce my panel, Mr. Carnell Smith and Dwayne Moore. Gentlemen, how are y'all doing this morning?
Hey,
doing awesome. Great.
Happy Friday.
We made it. Friday.
Yes.
God.
Yes.
And Larry. We got to give Larry I will give some intros here, but Larry
is the man.
Yes.
We've got an entire shop full of mechanics listening. Awesome, man. I guarantee you there's probably some divorced men in there that have some experience in the subject that we're going to talk about today. Okay, I'm a little disappointed in the community. I have had no shortage of people reaching out saying, we want you to talk about this. We want you to talk about this. Now, I've had that voicemail line open. I got a few different voicemails, but come on, guys. I know you're not that scared to get into this, but gentlemen, it's a real problem. Mom counterparents everything I do. If you got a dad that wants to be a dad instead of a friend, he sets limits. I want you to be in bed at a certain time. I want you to get your homework, not spend too much time with your friends. I don't want you to be out with your boyfriend. I don't want you dating too much. I don't want you having sex, cell phones, social media. There's all these different things that we do as parents, not to be mean or to pick on them, but we're being parents. And unfortunately, we live in a society right now where there's a lot of parents that would rather be a friend than be a parent. And what that does is turn that child against their dad. You guys got any comments to add in on that?
The mini muffin cupcakes? I don't know.
Oh, don't you bringing Cupcake back into this?
I mean,
they don't like
cupcakes are the new batch. Little mini muffins.
Hey, Julie.
Hey. So, I mean, just some examples of this, man. Like I've been on there. Like if I notice my kids getting on social media too much, and I'm like, look, if I would have had that as a kid, I can only sit there and imagine. Like if I would have had Facebook or TikTok, I got in enough trouble as is. But if I would have had an audience to do it with,
oh yeah,
man. And then it's if you look at the suicide rates amongst our children, and how it skyrocketed when social media took off, especially in young girls, okay? Yeah. Because they're constantly comparing themselves. But think about this, guys. We know what it was like being in school. What if you got in a fight with somebody at school? Back in the day, it might be the talk of the class for like 3 days, and then it goes away. Now, it goes all over the internet. There's all these different things that we have to protect our kids from because there's lots of consequences from it.
Well, I mean, where I grew up, and of course it was before the internet was even thought. I mean, you had to compare, or for the girls, you had to compare yourself to Hot Susie. Well, that was in just your school. Now you've got Hot Susie all over the world, and all these pressures. And I mean, you didn't have the boyfriend pressuring you into sending pictures of yourself. I mean, at best you had a Polaroid and you had to mail it to them. Now it's like, hey, send me a picture of your bobs, or do this or do that, and then the pressure. I mean, the news is full of stories of young girls and boys, but a lot of it girls committing suicide because they were getting cyber bullied and cyber shamed, and lies are being spread about somebody or the truth, who knows. But all that stuff is coming in, and as parents, our job is to protect our children. I mean, that's our number one, I think we can agree, our number one job at this point. When you have a child, your number one job is to protect that child, raise them right, and make sure someone else doesn't have to pay for them in prison.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the job. And when you've got a parent that no matter what you do, they're trying to be their buddy. They're trying to, a lot of times they seem like they do it just to piss you off because they know, I mean, you can tell you tell your kids, don't do meth, don't do drugs. Yeah. And they'll give them that just to spite you.
Yep. So
why?
Dwayne Eric bring up some excellent points. I think it's fair to the audience and Dad Talk Land out there today to know that here we are three guys who are married now, but our experiences should say to you guys that are there, why are we focusing on dads? Because according to the U.S. Census Bureau, the last one we found was 2017. Out of 1,000 parents, 800 of them are dads. So we're focused on the majority. Now, does that mean we are ignorant of the fact that there are some moms that go through with it? No. But there's no place that dads can come together and as men do the huddle and learn how to develop a squad so that we can start tackling these issues. Because what we're really talking about today here is called counter parenting.
Exactly. And
co-parenting is somebody trying to work together with you for the good of the child. So our relationship might be over, but we didn't stop our relationship with our kids.
Right.
Go ahead, Eric.
I was just going to say, I mean, if you go to a page named Dad Talk, what do you think you're going to expect? It's probably going to be a bunch of dads talking.
Moon landing conspiracy.
And we need this because society says that, they're a bunch of deadbeats and they're not wanting to parent. Everybody I'm talking to here is fighting for the right to be a parent. Yeah. And then once they get in there, they want to give some guidelines to their kids. Yeah. One of the things I've heard, I don't know if you guys have heard it, but you'll hear your kid. They were going to push back because they're kids and they're trying to test the limits. But Dad, you did it when you was younger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So me telling you not to do it now is not saying for me to be a hypocrite. It's like, baby, I know what's going on.
Don't do it. Yeah.
I know what's going on. I'm not speaking that to you as like, I want to keep you from fun. There is so much that these kids can get into. And unfortunately with divorced parents, I think this is 10 times harder. That's why the nuclear
divorce though.
No, it's not.
Single dads go through this same thing. This is where dads plural have common ground. Because if you were in a relationship with Cupcake and she is a narcissistic, abusive counterparent, because guess what? A counterparent is abusing your child. Mm-hmm. Because whereas if you are an active dad who has the mindset toward helping protect your child, you'll establish boundaries. You'll set up order, discipline, structure. Mm-hmm. And you don't mean something that you have to tell them 5-6 times. You get out of line after the first warning, there shall be consequences. And you need to be clear that they have to respect authority. They have to follow authority. But now this other parent, though, says, you don't have to listen to what he says. They'll go so far as to tell your child doesn't even have to call you daddy, that your child should call you by your first name. And you want to talk about an ultimate form of disrespect.
Or what she calls you.
And then they'll go so far as they are actively working to create distance between the love and the respect that your child has for you, to ultimately try to disenfranchise you so much so that now your kid hates you. And people don't understand that for that to happen, that is not normal. That is abnormal and a clear sign of abuse.
Oh, yeah, man. I mean, dude, I brought it up yesterday because that is a good point, Carnell. Like, how many of these guys end up in a divorce and then they see their ex trying to get the new boyfriend or the new husband and the kids to call him daddy?
Yeah.
Happens all the time.
Not call you daddy.
And not call you daddy. Another way of saying you don't have to respect him as much. And people wonder why these guys get angry. I mean, here is a guy that's trying, he's probably paying, knowing that there is a boyfriend in the house more than he's getting to see the kids. And then you're telling them to call him daddy because you're trying to replace something. I don't know, man. I think it's just, it's purely out of spite. And don't get this wrong. This can happen in the nuclear family too. It can happen with both parents live in the same roof. Look, I'm not saying my mom wasn't narcissistic or any of this other stuff, but Mama, I'm sorry to tell you, I knew to come to you when I wanted something.
When you want to get away with something.
My dad, the big man, was going to look at me, no.
And his no meant no.
And I was scared of him. But I knew to go to my mom when she was half asleep, tap her and say, Mama, can I get this or can I go somewhere? Because she would say yes. And then later on, there wasn't much of a consequence because I wasn't lying. She'd be like, where did you go? I was like, I went out. I asked you. I don't remember. I was like, I promise you I did, but I knew how to get what I wanted as a kid. And these kids today are no different. They're going to go to the parent that gives them what they want. That's not always necessarily a good thing, guys. Okay. Why are false allegations so dangerous right now? Because there's no consequence for the person that's making the false allegation. Now, for your kids, why will they not obey the rules? Because they don't fear the consequences. There is such a thing as a healthy fear for your kids.
Yes,
they need that. It's the reason why we got the law. We know that we don't go and do these things because there will be a punishment for it. And it's not us that's punishing you. It's you because you made the choice to do something you were not supposed to do.
Yeah. But can we also say too, there's times that things that my father taught me was to protect me so that I didn't have the life experience that he had. I didn't have the knowledge and the wisdom that he had. And I found that you do not have to learn every lesson the hard way. I've challenged this statement by people says you have to learn experience is the best teacher. No, it's not. Obedience is the best teacher because there's some problems you can avoid by following the benefit of someone else's experience. I'll give you an example. My father would say to me, he says, your cousin has sticky fingers, meaning he steals. Do not hang out with him. Don't go places with him. If he shows up in a car, don't get in the car and ride with him. And I literally see this situation that my father described. And because I was more concerned about what my dad said than what my cousin said and what my friend said, or even what my mom said, what dad said was law. You hear me?
Yes.
But listen, when dad said that, I later got to experience and I saw my cousin end up doing multi-years in prison because he was stealing out of people's checks. He would go in people's houses, find their checkbooks, take checks out of the middle of their checkbooks and go on a shopping spree. And if you weren't mindful of the fact, how's he got several $1,000s and got no job, he's not a trust fund baby. So he doesn't have all these resources and you going out with him, helping him spend money that's stolen. Guess what happens when the police show up and they pick him up? And most stores have video surveillance these days. And there's you're there with him. You get in trouble and get part of getting sentenced as well because you didn't listen to dad who was trying to give you structure, order, and discipline. Now, I'm not saying there's moms that can't do that, but I'm going to be honest with you. By far and large, men who've had to work to build themselves up, to achieve some level of success in their family for whatever level of success that is for him, he's had to commit time, effort, and energy to work at that, to achieve that. And for you, dad, if you are a top flight mechanic, you a top dog plumber, you a carpenter, blue collar, white collar, no collar. Hey, you had to work for it. You and nobody often most likely didn't give you squat. So you even have a healthy respect for what it means to go earn money. And that's why you didn't just give kids unlimited access to your pocket and hand them $3,000-$4,000 because they won't respect it. They won't respect the value of it. They won't respect the worth ethic.
You make a great point too. Like my kids, if they want to go somewhere, they want to do something, or they need some money for something, I am not just going to take out my wallet and say, here, I'm going to say, clean your room, take out the trash. There is something that they're going to have to do. It don't even have to be anything big, but you are going to earn the money. And then when you got the other side that it just say, okay, here you go, baby. I'll give you what you want. Then when I, as a parent, try to make them earn it, I'm looked at as, again, just some cheapskate controlling dad that's slaving the kids. I don't know any of these kids that are slaving nowadays. I remember when I was younger, dude, like I had to wash the cabinets, paint the fence, and all kinds of stuff, and I'd get $5.
Okay.
My mom would take me to the arcade and give me $5, and I'd sit there for 4 hours. I spent it in 10 minutes, right? But some of these kids got it so good, man. But making them earn that dollar and letting them know you're not entitled to this.
Nope.
And that's an important lesson, because they need that for when they get older to realize, hey, it's going to take my hard work, my sweat, and my participation to earn this money. And there's people that's like, I don't want my kids to work some of those jobs where they have to do that. I do, at least for a season, because I want them to know what it feels like so that they never, ever want to do that. They'll work harder to achieve more, because they don't want to be a McDonald's worker for the rest of their life. They want to go out there and succeed. And that there's nothing in this world, man. This is what I can't stand about victim mentality. There is nothing in this world that if you want it bad enough and you put the work behind it, that you can't achieve. Nothing.
Exactly.
The things that have changed, something just sparked a memory, and something actually my wife and I have been talking about, is the difference between when we were kids and then our kids. And and I just want to, show of hands, you guys, what do you think? My dad would leave me a note in the morning written on the back of an envelope. Swear to God. And it would say, I won't say his nickname. It was a nice nickname. It wasn't a bad nickname, but he would have my nickname on it. And then he would say, I expect the house to be painted. And I'm not kidding. The house to be painted, or the basement to be painted, or the siding ripped off the house where we lived. I had to, anyway, blah, blah, blah. By the time I get home, love you, Dad. And I'll tell you right now, whatever he asked for was done well. By the time he got home.
Absolutely, brother.
It wasn't.
Did you expect to be paid a lot of money for doing it too?
Oh,
you get paid?
Dad said you eat at my house. You wearing the clothes that I bought you.
Yeah.
You got paid already.
Yeah. And then the kids now, you have to explain it in like excruciating detail, and it comes out half-assed anyway, but and it's not really that difficult. And to go with what Eric said, I don't want to just give them money. You had a situation actually just yesterday, and I overpaid my youngest for doing some chores around the house, and it is his house too. But I that earn money, so he appreciates it and doesn't think that just comes from the magic tree fairy. But the difference, it was just, I don't know if you guys experienced any of that, just the differences between you were growing up and the way your folks did it and the way the kids nowadays. It's weird.
Oh yeah, dude. I think we have, and now we sound like our parents did when we was growing up, telling us about picking cotton and all the hard work they had to do. I'm serious.
Chopping firewood.
Oh yeah, I heard that my whole life. But I mean, it really is true. There's a lot of things that instant gratification, I think, plays into a lot of this too.
Yeah.
With social media, I expect something from my participation. I mean, dude, participation trophies. Okay, we didn't hear about that growing up.
That's one of the dumbest things I've seen. I wouldn't even let my kid. I would take the thing back from him, not because I don't love him. Says, but you haven't worked to earn this. Because if it was just given to you, it has no value at all.
Well, isn't there a lesson in learning how to be a good loser? Right?
Yeah.
So you're going to win some, you're going to lose some. And if you lose, you need to work a little bit harder. Right? And then it makes
how do I get better?
Greatness.
How do I get better?
There's lessons that we're learning in that. We just want to hand out these participation trophies. You don't have to work. You're just going to get it no matter what. That is the problem. And the reason that fits in right here, guys, is, I mean, If you got one side that's trying to make them earn it and then one that's just giving them everything, and like I said, being a friend, it really is setting up our kids for failure. And
Yes,
unfortunately, if you're a non-custodial father, there's usually not much you can do about it.
Well, you're a weekend warrior.
I hate to say it. It cripples you. I know several of these alienated parents that got kids that are doing things that they don't agree with, but they say, I can't say anything because if I say something, they're just going to run over to their moms and never talk to me again. Imagine a father being afraid to be a father. That's where we're getting to in society now, guys. And that's
why it's called counter parenting, Eric.
Oh,
I'll give an example that there's somebody out in dad talk land that's going to be able to relate to. I inadvertently pissed off my son's mom by me insisting and teaching him how to dress himself, how to put on his shoes, how to tie and string up his shoes. And
well, most dads that would be an insult, but you are a snappy dressed man, so that you get you get the pass.
But listen though, I was building him up on the inside up so that he wouldn't feel that he was entitled, so that he believed people were supposed to do stuff for him, and that women were supposed to just do all this stuff for him, right? And then after I got him, to the point of being able to do that, I told him, I said, there you go, you're a big boy. Yeah, you dad's little man. I'm proud of you, son. Man, that little guy, he stuck his chest out, man. He's like, man, my daddy says he's proud of me. Yeah. And then when summer's over and I gotta surrender him because the court order said I can only have him for 2 weeks. I got to travel back cross states. I got to take him back. Do you know, shortly after he got home, his mother called me and she wanted to pick a fight, saying he won't let her tie his shoes up for him. He won't let her pick out his clothes and stuff and, treat him like a dress up doll. He said, my daddy says I'm a big boy. Look, Mom, I can do this myself.
And he probably wanted to.
And he wanted to. But guess what? And my son won. But his dad, she picked a fight over the thing. Listen, I asked her, I said, in the grand scheme of things, you called me to talk about that when society at large is really turning their back on men and boys, trying to make us feel like we're something less than a human being and a citizen because we're being masculine. We're doing things that men do. Hey, I had every intention of taking him out hunting, taking him fishing, showing him how to work on the car, how to change a tire, how to do oil changes. Now, does that encompass all there is about manhood? No. But I was also going to teach him about how to handle his money, why he needed to earn his money, and how he needed to save some of his money, then learn how to invest some of his money, have a long-term strategy. Don't spend all of your paycheck on a short-term emotional high talking about you're doing retail therapy.
Can I give you one that I think even goes a big step further? This is something I've seen with my kids. Okay. I don't know if anybody else has, but so if you relate, it would be good to know. They don't even want to order their own food.
Oh my goodness.
At a restaurant. I'm serious. Daddy, you have to order for me because they're scared to talk to the waitress. And when I saw that, they was like, Mama orders my food. I was like, but Daddy ain't. You're going to order your food. You're going to ask me what you can order first because I'm going to tell you what you can get and what you can't.
There you go.
Get the T-bone on my dime.
There you go.
But yesterday, for example, we went to Subway. I handed my daughter a $20 bill. I said, go in there, order. You got like $7 or $8. You can get a regular meal, and I'll be back. I went and got KFC on purpose because I wanted her to go in by herself and order because she is so scared to just order her own food.
You're teaching her.
Yeah.
I mean, it's getting bad. It's getting bad. The entitlement. And then it's also, when I look at that tells me that that's been done for her. And because that's been done for her and she hasn't been made to do it herself, there's confidence issues.
Exactly.
There's confidence issues. And that's some of the things where it seems like dad is being hard on the kid. No. One day, guys, those kids are not going to be in your house anymore.
They're not going to be here.
And you've got to teach them how to be sufficient and how to live on their own and how to earn their keep, right? Because we're not always going to be around.
And how to be disciplined.
and how to be disciplined. And you know what? They might not like it now.
Nope.
But I can guarantee you, this is what I say. People want
They hate it later.
gratification, and that's why a lot of these people play friends. Go ahead and play friends with your kids, because I tell you what's going to happen. One day, your kid's going to have a kid. You're going to have a grandchild, and your kid's going to look down in the eyes of that baby and say, I understand you now, Daddy.
Yep.
I understand it now. That's how it had to happen for me. So it might be some delayed gratification, guys, but don't be afraid to be dad. I know why you are. So many of these guys are afraid that they're going to lose their kids, but do not be afraid to be dad. You see the fatherless consequences. There's a lot of these kids out there that might have a bio dad that they're seeing every other week or maybe once a month, but they might as well be fatherless because he doesn't have the ability to be a parent.
Right.
And because he could, but they don't want to co-parent with him. Got a couple of comments in here, gentlemen. We got one from Larry Hayes. He said, this has been going on since day one in my case. And just recently, last August, my ex tells the courts I'm controlling over my kids. Now my daughter decided just to not come home and move out because dad is controlling my daughter. Just turned 15 and the kids run the show. Apparently, this is when you talk about letting the inmates run the asylum, guys. Okay. Yep. Your kids should not think that they have authority over the parent. They should not. And I'm going to
equal and better.
You're going to feel like a prisoner in your own home. Those are your kids. Could you imagine growing up and telling your parents what they are and what they're not going to do?
Man,
I tried once.
Dude, right now.
I still walk weird.
I thought my dad could read minds. My dad would say something that I was literally thinking, and I was like, man, there ain't no way I would let those words eke out of my mouth. You hear me?
No,
and by the way, as I became an adult, even before I had a son, I went and hugged my dad's neck and I told him, I was like, thank you, Daddy. Cause I understand now you were preparing me, cause in life, some things are not fair just because you're a guy. And in my case, you know, I happen to be black, a man of African descent. A lot of times things were unfair just on the basis of my skin color. But because my father prepared me, I was able to navigate through things that were unjust and unfair. And he said that, okay, you might not be able to change it all, but how about I can show you how to navigate your way through it in a way that you can still achieve some level of victory.
So he taught you not to be a victim.
Absolutely.
Wow, that's a weird concept.
Carnell, did you vote for our current president?
You must be joking.
Well, you ain't black. I'm sorry.
Yeah. According to him,
I just had
if you don't vote for him, you're not black. And by the way, we got to say this so that, you know, here in Dad Talk, we're making light of the situation, but who you vote for doesn't have define your qualities as being a man and your qualities of being a dad. Because literally they tried to push forth a candidate here in the state of Georgia who literally said that if men didn't vote for her, that the women should no longer have intimate relations with their husbands or boyfriends, and gave us an ultimatum. Man, I got on a lot of shows and told the fellas, you need to vote for your best interest. You need to vote for the person who voted to keep the state of Georgia open. You need to vote for the person who helped protect your job and made sure that you could still get out there and get after it and make money. Because a lot of us guys, man, we don't want nobody giving us a freaking handout. I didn't want to stay home and have somebody send me a check when I could earn more by going out there getting after it. But guess where that began? That began with the relationship I had with an active father. And my mom and my stepmom and my dad, they all worked together in a collaborative fashion because they said, you kids need to know each other. So we made sure we knew who all our siblings were, and we all got to spend time together. And both of the women, my mom and my stepmom, said, because we didn't work out in a relationship with your dad, that's no reason for us to mess up the relationship that you kids have with your dads.
Actually, Colonel, interesting question. Now, again, I know 11 years, child that ultimately was not yours. Mm-hmm. I have to believe or assume that there were some counter-parenting opportunities created there in that time, because
yes, there were.
Lying to you wasn't her only.
Oh no, that's not the only thing.
Any gems that?
Yes,
How do you think he
yes.
learned the ingredients to a cupcake?
You know what? I figure I'd throw it out there, see what happens.
All right.
Well, as bad as it is for the dads who was, in the case of he didn't marry, so he's a single dad,
Oh
or in
yeah,
the dad of the case he was married, and the divorce was forced on him, because in today's culture you don't have to desire to be divorced. She can make a unilateral decision,
divorce.
and she can
Yep.
nuke the family just like
Nuke.
that, and then go after you. But add to that some or none of the kids are yours. And it was my pastor's dad that talked me into getting a DNA test. And then I found out listen, this woman, she would pick a fight with me when I'm coming to her house with my court order to exercise my parenting time.
Oh yeah.
And she said with a straight face at the door, she can't go. I was like, well, why? You knew I was coming. I called in advance. I sent your letter in advance that pursuant to the court order, here's a copy of it. Here's where it's circled. I will be exercising my parenting time. She says, can't go because I said so. I'm standing there at the door and I'm like, and by the way, at this point, I've done some studies with in the father support community. And because I had gotten a lot of coaching in the years from fathers or parents too, I don't think they're no longer existing as a group, but I brought witnesses with me. I brought an off-duty peace officer with me because I didn't want any problems. And I also knew my ex had a gun. And I didn't want any issues. And last thing I'm going to do is sit there and argue and fight and do something dumb like, bulldoze my way through her front door. Listen, when she carried on, so I was like, well, look, this is not right. I called the police. I called them, and the police came and met me, and he explained to me.
That's a good tactic, by the way.
And he said, man, he said, I sure wish a whole lot more dads do what you did. Cause usually when we get called out, dad has kicked the door in.
Oh,
He's gone in there and says, hey, where's my kid's stuff? And by the time the cops get there, he's coming out the door with the kid with their overnight bag.
Mom's screaming.
And he's walking right into the arms of some handcuffs.
Yeah.
And the officer, and I showed him my order. He took it. He went to the door. He says, look, ma'am, I see the court order there myself. Will you let the child go? And by the way, the child was ready. The child wanted to go. She's right there, ready to go, wanting to go with me. And she doesn't understand why her mom won't let her go.
Yeah.
And she told the cop, not doing it. And you can't make me.
That's some brass, what?
And guess what? And the cop says, you know what? He says, listen, here's what I can do. Because I witnessed this, I'll be a witness for you in court. And I'll write this up per the Georgia statutes for custodial interference. And I'm gonna tell you here's my card, and here's what you got to do to get this police report. But now you got to get with either you could do it yourself, or you got to get through your attorney and go file a motion for contempt. And he was going to be my witness, but he says, now you're going to have to leave the property, or else I'm going to have to arrest you for trespassing.
Yeah.
And he explained to me calmly, understanding my situation, understanding I'm frustrated, and that I got witnesses as well. So it's not just my word. Right. I now have my witnesses. I have the police officer himself. And he says that to me. He says in a calm fashion, anytime you are asked to leave someone's residence and you are there 30 seconds after you've had the
He'll enforce that law.
You are the opportunity to leave, and you don't leave, you are now trespassing. I said, put my hand out. I said, thank you, officer. You've explained this to me. I get the picture, and it doesn't help my cause in any way for me to go locked up, spend a weekend in jail, and lose even more money and potentially miss out on work, because I'm also on call 24/7, and I have to respond, and I'm paid $5,000 a year to carry. Back then, it was a pager. But what that told me right there, I was immediately in a relationship with a counterparent. And at that time, I did not know that the child was not mine.
Right.
So
yeah, with what you mentioned with the custodial interference, Texas has a state penal code 2503. I call it the Diet Coke of state jail felonies because it's pretty well never enforced. They give you this the civil matter, and they get around that because I believe that they don't want to, disrupt the cash cow, mommy, which is how they get their Title 4D funds and additional monies. But that's unfortunately a common story. And I'm sure it's echoed. Everyone probably on here today, has had those instances of it. But no, it's a very interesting story. And Eric, I know you probably have a couple.
Well, I mean, one thought that Carnell said something that gave me a little trauma, a little PTSD from it, a little off subject, but it goes into the counter-parenting thing. Mm-hmm. One of the worst things that my parents could ever say, and it was my dad who used it all the time. I believe, why can't I get what I want?
Oh,
because I said so.
Yep.
That's all I had to say. And the fumes, man. That's not a reason. Why can't I get it? Because I said so.
You
do
said,
it again.
You said after he said that, that's not a reason?
Oh man, I was a bad kid.
You were that dumb. Wow.
Oh yeah. Ooh. I had no fear.
You're still here. Wow.
I'm challenging this.
I only had boys need to sometimes go through that experience where they test their limits and they challenge authority. I only did that one time in my life. And as you can see, I'm alive right now. So I survived that one time. And I actually told my dad, I was like, but Dad, they get to do this over at so-and-so's house. And like, Dad, we live in a democracy. I should have some say-so on this.
It's a dictatorship.
Here's what my dad said. This is a benevolent dictatorship.
Yeah.
What I say goes. Yeah. And in my house, all the rules go by what I say. And then he said, so you think you a man now, huh? And I said, yeah. And guys, after
Eddie Murphy,
listen, after I got back up and my vision cleared up, did you hear what I just said?
Oh yeah.
After I could get back up, I realized that we were not equal, that we were not evenly matched. And my challenge to authority had taught me a lesson that says, do not ever, under no circumstances, do this again.
Oh, a similar story, and I'd love to hear Eric's. But so when I was about 15, 16 years old, I had a black belt in Taekwondo. I was, young. I had energy. I had everything. My dad's an old working man. He's old, probably about my age now. Blah, blah, blah. Well, we're out in the front in the driveway, and we're having some words back and forth. And I took a swing at him. I thought, I was like, I am capped. I've watched Bruce Lee. I've watched Chuck Norris. I watched, all of them. I thought I had it. He took that shot, and all I remember, I don't know the physics, but I ended up on the other side of the car.
Yep.
And there wasn't a dent in the car, so I'm assuming I cleared it.
You were airborne. You went airborne. I was
airborne. That man smoked me so hard. This old, decrepit fart launched me over a car. I didn't do it again.
Ever.
I was like, all right, I'm done.
So you understood the chain of command after that, didn't you?
I got that chain of command.
I definitely made it worse on myself because I told you, Dad was a big man, 6'9", size 17 shoe. You didn't want him getting a hold of you, buddy.
Right.
You did not. See. But the one thing I had on him with my youth was my speed.
You could outrun
it. Your dad didn't say, if I got to catch you, it's going to be worse. He didn't do that?
I never said that I stood there after I would make some of these comments. I would run straight out in the woods. And there was times I sat there for an hour or two and thought to myself, he's going to forget.
No,
there was maybe once or twice that he forgot. No. But what it'd be, you'll just be sitting there in the house thinking everything's all good, and you're watching the TV. Next thing I know, that big hand grabbed my arm and said, "You thought I forgot, didn't you?"
Yeah.
Bam!
Yep.
Daddy, leave me alone. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. Yeah, all those words.
As adults, Still, I woken up in a cold sweat to the very vivid sound of my dad's belt buckle or his belt coming off. I mean, I woke up in a cold sweat. My wife goes, "What's going on?" I'm like,
I had a
"No,
dream.
my dad's been dead for 10 years. I still remember that. Okay, we're good." And I go back to bed.
Oh man,
Some
my
of the
dad
most
would take it
terrorizing
off.
things, man.
Oh yeah, he would take it and then pull it together and pop.
Boom! Oh yeah, it's go time.
Oh yeah, I was fast.
But
I ran.
This ties right into the thing about counterparenting. As a direct result, how many of us guys here don't have a criminal record because you were a lot more afraid of your dad having to come up to the school than you were of the dean, than you were of the assistant principal, than you were of the principal, than you were of the coach, the anybody else on that entire campus. And even today, even if, they got campus resource officers and all that stuff, part of the police, I would be more concerned that they had to make a phone call to my dad.
Yep.
I was able to operate with self-discipline because it meant more to me that I didn't have to go into a one of these discussions with, so you decided that you don't have to listen to the teacher. And the teacher got on your nerves, you say. Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to straighten that problem out. I learned that my actions had consequences. And I'm very fortunate that in my upbringing, my mother was a cooperative parent that rather than a counter parent. And she focused on the fact that even though they were no longer in a relationship, and she had moved on and married my sister's dad, there was absolutely no reason to prevent me as his son from having a relationship with him. But that's not what dads are experiencing today in 2000. And Eric, this might be a good time to bring in what happened to that gentleman. What was his name? Joshua?
Rustin.
Justin?
Rustin Wright. Yes. Actually, well, I don't know if you guys want, it's been a long time coming. I don't know, Eric, you want to unveil? I don't know how close you are to that one.
So I know a little bit about it, but that's a case that's went on for a long time. And if I tried to talk about it, I'm sure I would mess it up. I know he had a child that custodial interference happened with several times, and I think even his child got arrested one time because he didn't want to go back to mom. Yeah.
So Rustin White, right? He is the he either founded or co-founded. He's part of the Americans for Parental Equality group, and he got divorced, had an extreme counter-parenting scenario. I'll just mention Judge Quisenberry. Is actually down here in Texas. This judge, the child, Aiden, when I was 18, I can say his name out loud. Aiden, and there's lots of videos. Go to Jeff Morgan's page. You'll see a lot of stuff on YouTube on it. But Aiden said, I want to live with my dad. He was at the time 12, 13 years old. He was old enough to talk to the judge and kind of make that decision because his parents allegedly were abusing him verbally, physically. It was apparently allegedly a bad situation. I don't have firsthand knowledge of that, but there are court records. Anyway, so he says, I want to live with my dad. He made the outcry. He told the judge. He told everybody that would listen to him. He went on a show and talked about it. The judge said, no, we're going to send you to a boarding school, and I don't know where the heck it was, and you were not allowed to see your father at all. He did not see his son for 4 years, and he was reunited when his son turned 18. That was his 18th birthday present, was to finally be with his dad. And that picture, and I don't know if you've seen it, or it's worth $1 million. But that an example of counter parenting of one of the worst magnitudes. Is that? But yeah, after 4 years of a judge preventing him, and again, Rustin's a solid guy, nice, calm, good dad. All those things. He's a fierce fighter in the community, but he was a target, I want to say. But this judge felt it best to send him to a boarding school because they lived somewhat around each other. And I assume there was discussions of, he's like, look, I don't care. I'm going to go live with my dad. And the judge said, nope, see ya. That's what, you got a dad that fought, he spent, I want to say north of $500,000 fighting, and there's still, I still get notified. I'm still court documents. But yeah, that is one. But I'd say it's a good. I mean, it's a great day yesterday because again, his 18th birthday, he was finally reunited with his dad, and they were going to make up for a lot of lost time.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I'm glad to hear that
he was old enough to know the truth, though.
Yeah. Oh, if you watch the videos that are out there about this, and you see what's happening, he just kept, I want to live with my dad. I want to live with my dad.
Yep.
And the flip side of this counter parenting thing, and I'm going to talk to all the cupcakes out there, is your kids are going to find out. They're going to learn what happened, what really happened, what's going on. And when they turn 18 or 21, whatever the year majority is in your state, they're more than likely going to leave and never come back. Which, I don't know, for some parents or some moms, that may be cool because that's when the child support ends. I don't know, that may be a good thing for them.
Yeah, absolutely. If you guys don't mind, I just want to talk a little bit more about that father's love and why that counter parenting is so dangerous. My dad. Okay, I'm going to give a story about my old man. A dad's love doesn't go away when the kids get older and go out of the house.
No, they don't.
No,
it does not. And a lot of these kids don't want them to care when they're doing something they shouldn't be doing, but they want them to care when something bad happens. A dad's love is consistent. It's all the time. And let me tell you how I took mine for granted. I'm going to try to get through this one without crying.
Okay.
We're here for you, man.
Guys, I kid you not, man. After getting my license and stuff, and being the kid that I was, I moved out of the house at 16, and I didn't care, man, up until I was 24, 25 years old. If I came home past midnight, I lived on the same property as my dad. He was sitting on the front porch with the light on. And when I would get in that driveway, he'd be on my phone. Where have you been? I can't go to sleep until you're at home.
Wow.
Man, I would get so angry. Like, just freaking go to sleep. Leave me alone. I'm a grown man.
Grown man.
I'm a grown man. Just leave me alone, And I remember that anger and that emotion. But now he's not here. I'd do anything to see him sitting on that front porch because I know how much he loved me. And all the people that I would go hang out with and get away from him and took that for granted are really not in the picture anymore. And then the one that I would love to be here isn't. And that was a dad's love. I was not a perfect child by no means. One of the worst things, you're talking about getting in trouble and stuff. When I was, I think around 21, after I went through the divorce, I didn't have my daughter that weekend. I had a buddy that begged me to go to a bar and I didn't want to go. He had broke up with his girlfriend, but I went and I drank and I thought it would be okay to drive home. I didn't think I was that drunk, but I got pulled over and I got a DUI. Okay, you're going to lose your license for 6 months. You're going to pay these fines and everything. And look, man, all of that sucked. I was about to lose my income tax and everything. I learned my mistake because I never did it again. However, the worst part of that, guys, was having to go and stand in front of my old man.
Yeah.
Because he had never drank a sip of alcohol in his life.
Mm-hmm.
And that one, it was me knowing I had disappointed him.
Yeah.
Because he had shown me what that was. And those consequences, I learned from it. I didn't need to make that mistake to learn from it, but I just looked back at that love and that father's love. I was afraid. I wasn't afraid to face him. I knew I had disappointed him. That hurt me, man, because he had expectations of me. And that's what these dads are instilling in these kids and these boys and these girls, those expectations, because I want you to be the best that you can be. We're not saying you're not going to make mistakes. We know that you are, but there's some you don't have to make to learn from it. And I love you enough to tell you I've made mistakes. Let me tell you so that you don't have to go through it. That rarely works. I get it. But there's some of those kids that listen. But when the other parent is over there saying they do not have to listen to that, you are setting those kids up for failure, guys.
Yes.
Yeah.
And can we add to the point about why counterparenting is so destructive?
Yes.
Even though my mother, she did work collaborative with my dad to make sure I got to physically get to see him and stuff. But man, at the end of the day, the person who did the most for helping me to, have the mindset to go to and participate in sports, because he knew that sports and something organized would help me with additional discipline. It
Oh
would
yeah.
also keep me out of trouble,
Yep.
hanging with the wrong crowd.
Idle Hands
get
Devil's
me in-
Workshop.
Exactly. And why it was important for me, soon as I was old enough to be able to get a legal job, that I start to associate value of money with work.
Mm-hmm.
Earn it before you can spend it,
Burn it.
and not spending it all. But I reached a point with my mother, that we had such an impasse that some of the things she said used to get on my nerves. And man, she would say, "You just like your daddy."
Thank you.
My father is what I would consider to be what you call a jack of trades. He'd spent time he had been in the U.S. Army after he got out, and he knew how to do a whole lot of things. And he ultimately ended up working for the water department, for the city of Daytona Beach, Florida. And until he got injured on the job, he had a side hustle. But everything he did was legit, above board. He wasn't doing any shady stuff. And he was trying to teach that to me. So when my mom refused to sign the documentation that would help me go to college, he said, fathers are parents too, right? I was like, yeah. He said, well, then, he said, come to me. And by the way, my mom didn't come to my high school graduation. I ended up going to my high school graduation on a 10-speed bike by myself. Here I am, an honor student in the gifted program, STEM, mostly because of my dad. You hear what I'm saying? And mom didn't even come to my graduation. So I graduate, and I'm going to say in a couple of hours after graduation, I moved out of her house. And guess where I went? To live with my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And because we already had an ongoing relationship, and by the way, my entire paternal family embraced me every time I was there. I didn't just get to see dad. I got to see granddad, his new wife, all of the siblings, the cousins, the neighbors, all of it. And I mean, it was radically different than from my mom's side. And I also got to see what it was like for those guys, those guys and girls whose mom did everything in her power to keep them from being able to see their dads. And out of them and me, guess who got in the most trouble? Them. The girls, I saw the girls get pregnant before they got out of high school. Some had 2 and 3 babies.
Wow.
They found out how the equipment worked, and they kept working the use of the equipment, if you getting what I'm putting down.
Yeah.
So one of the things that the influence of the dads is that as much as it's been frustrating for you to be able to get to see your kids, there are people in the dad talk community who have had success against these counter parenting. But guess what? It's not often something that they went and filed for custodial interference one time and won custody of their kid. They had to go in sometimes and play the long game. And it took years. And then for some of us, I didn't get reunited with my own son till he left his mother's house.
Yeah.
And he said to me, I asked him one day, I say, son, how was it that you were searching for me? He said, Dad, based on my mom's character, this is my ex-fiance. He said, based on my mom's character and all the lies that I have seen her tell, that there had to be more to the story about you than she was telling me. And then when he went on and joined the U.S. Marines, he did 3 tours in Afghanistan.
Oh, wow.
He is retired disabled Staff Sergeant Carnell Smith Jr. Awesome. He's got his own channel out here now called Sergeant War Dog. And he is actually working, helping other vets now dealing with issues after they've come back out, right?
Awesome.
But this guy, he understood that he needed to be able to connect with dad. And dad wanted to still be able to connect with him even after going during their bankrupt. trying to maneuver his way through the family court, just trying to use how I thought it should work versus finding out how did other people win and get it done. And remember that resource book that I kept talking about, Eric? You know, that one that says, say goodbye to crazy?
Yep.
I'm going to tell for the dads out there, not because I'm earning anything off this book. There's not going to be an affiliate link posted or anything. I know Paul Elam. Paul Elam is one of the authors. He's a co-author of that book. And Paul actually says part 1 is defining the problem when you find yourself in a relationship with the abusive, narcissistic parents, AKA Crazy Cupcake.
Actually, I saw Johnny Depp reading that book. He was in court.
Man, can you put that on screen?
Eric, you got that? Didn't you?
I don't. If you can do it on the share screen, I'll definitely pop it up.
But there's 3 parts to how we do something about it. Because it's one thing, you know, first,
there you go.
For everybody in the community to not think it's just you. Because when you talk to single dads, you're going to hear the same thing. When you talk to dads who are married, you're going to hear the same thing. Well, what's common, though? The mindset of the other parent who thinks they're punishing you by interfering with you trying to teach structure, order, and discipline to your kid. You refuse to just open your wallet and just dump it out in them and let them go, you know, willy-nilly and go shopping, doing retail therapy. And they have no understanding of work and value and what it takes to manage your money and have a long-term plan so that one day they're going to need to be able to take care of themselves.
Yeah.
That book has a great information for them.
I'd like to put a disclaimer out there.
Go ahead.
That wasn't really Johnny holding the book, right?
Nah. Yeah. Well,
Okay.
well not really. It's just,
okay.
It's just
he probably needed to. He probably needed to. There you go.
There you go.
Say goodbye,
to crazy. How to get rid of his crazy ex and restore sanity to your life. Guys, Paul Elam, the guy who founded A Voice for Men and who hosted the very first international conference for men's issues, I think that was like 2007. This guy lays out a playbook and a strategy for how to deal with it. Because guys, if this person is not co-parenting with you, they are counter-parenting with you. And you would be wise to learn there's actually some effective approaches on how to deal with this long term. And he literally says something that blows my mind. He says, communicating with crazy Cupcake, less is better than trying to do more. Because you know how we do as guys. We'll try to say, well, come on now, look, let's reason together.
Let's reason together. Use logic.
Let's just have a conversation. All right, I'm willing to hear. I'm willing to hear you out. Will you hear me out? And can we come together and work in what's going to be best for our kid? Look, it took 2 of us to make the kid. It should take 2 of us to raise the kid. And ultimately, what you feel and think has some value, what I feel and think has some value. But you can only do that with 2 people who are willing to function as 2 mature adults.
Well, it's crazy. In many of those cases, they want to talk until the man starts speaking.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They want to talk until the man starts speaking. And unfortunately, when he starts to speak, if there's any bit of truth to it, they're going to try to cancel that conversation. But looking back at some of this other counter-parenting stuff, we know men and women, they were born, we got differences. We got a lot of similarities, but moms and dads, they parent different. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Sure do.
But I remember one of the talks, is crazy to think this at 38 years old. My oldest daughter just graduated high school. When me and her mom went through a divorce, she was 13 years old. Guys, I'm not going to say I did it on my own, because she did go to her mom's every other weekend and every Tuesday. And whenever her mom asked, I said, that's fine. If you want to go spend time with your parent, you can spend time with your parent. At the same time, with us being in the household, I was having to work 16 and 18-hour days to be able to fund that household that was once done with 2. So she got a little bit more responsibility than most 13-year-olds are. You know, she's going to have to wash her clothes. She's going to have to get herself up for school because I was already gone. Was many of that stuff. When she had homework,
Mm-hmm.
And she would ask me, Daddy, I don't know what's going on. I'd go over there and sit and then talk to her about it. And I would find out, does she really not know what's going on? Or she just want me to give her the answers because she wants to get over it. Now, if she really needed help, I would help her. But most of the time I'd say, you got this, and walk away. If she wanted something, I would say, hey, I want you to do something. You're going to have to earn it. Right. Then it was one of those days, like, she is very smart. She graduated high school. Neither me nor her mom did. We both got our GED. So I pushed her and I said, you're going to do this. Okay. But one of those days it was like, Daddy, you don't just buy me stuff when I want it. You know what? When I needed help on my homework, you wouldn't get in here and give me the answers. She started telling me all these different things. And I said, let me ask you a question. I said, you got a job now. I said, have you missed a day of work? She said, nope. I said, who gets you up? I do. I was like, what was your grades like in school? Well, I made almost all A's, and that's because I did it. I was like, okay. I was like, but do you understand this level of responsibility that you now have is because I made you do it?
Yeah.
You're earning money. You're actually working a job. You did that, your last few years in school, and you did that and you juggled it. You get out there and earn it. Where do you think you got that from? You're trying to see all the things that you're saying I didn't give you, but I gave you the ability to do it on your own. And that's confidence. And that's what a lot of these kids are missing nowadays. That's just one of the ways that we parent a little bit different. And if you ask me, I think that's what the kids need a little bit later on in life. I could be wrong.
Boys and girls need that.
Boys and girls. Oh, dude, girls need their daddies just as much as the young boys do. I'm going to get to some of you guys' comments on here, though. Mr. Shane Dorman said, my girl had a boy before I came into the picture. I've raised him since he was 2. His dad is not in the picture and seen him 2 times since he was born. He calls me dad, and he did that on his own. That being said, I set rules for him and her, and grandma undermines everything I do and says when it comes to him, it really has made me resentful towards him. Her and grandma, we now have 2 more. 2, he's autistic, and a 10-month-old. I'm a stay-at-home dad because she acts like she doesn't ever want to be here. Hell, I can't even get her to spend time with them by herself. I always have to be around to help her. I'm running on fumes, brothers. You know what? There is going to be situations, like, again, where there is going to be some deadbeats. One thing I would say, if you get in a relationship with somebody, she tells you, oh, he was abusive, he's a deadbeat, he doesn't ask about those kids, go do your freaking homework. Because if you don't, you might end up being that guy later on just because you wanted to be Mighty Mouse, okay?
Yeah. Hear the other side of the story.
But if there is a deadbeat and he's not around, the kids need that masculine man in the house that's going to help provide those rules. Unfortunately, for the good stepdads that step in, a lot of times they might not get the respect that a bio dad would. Okay.
Because the other
triggered.
Look, because the other parent then works against him, and he is actually there on duty.
Yeah. It's like, I want you to help. I want you to help. Come in here and do this. But when you try to help, no, you're not the dad.
Yep. And then tell the kids they don't have to listen to you because you're not their daddy.
What is it, Dwayne?
Oh God, what? Just trigger recent, trigger moments. I have a bonus daughter, and again, her bio father passed away a number of years ago. But the stories, I don't want to speak ill of him, but not the best guy in the world. And growing up in that scenario, and again, I've always been like, I'm not your father. I am here to provide, again, parental, again, parent and dad and mom, those can be separate things. Right. And, we've had our challenges. I'm going to leave it at that. But it was funny last night. My wife was actually working a side gig. She's a hustler. And I get this frantic phone call, and she's like, Olivia got into I shouldn't have said her name on, but daughter got in an accident at work, and car's smoking, blah, 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 blah. So stopped what I was doing with my youngest. We were actually installing a radio, having some father-son bonding time, and the truck drove out there, calmed her down. Turned out she never put oil in the car. It was actually out of oil.
Oh.
So we were able to save it. We were able to save it and had a good, But again, I just say it's not I guess you could call it's not Mighty Mouse, but it was like, being there and then providing, we've had our challenges. I love her through the whole thing. I mean, even when she hates my guts, and she's had, other challenges just given that dynamic. But, we've had our challenges where, she told me she hates me. And again, all my kids have told me they hate me. So, I mean, that when you guys were talking about, part of being a parent is you're going to be told some of the most things because of all the emotions and everything.
Yep.
I mean, every one of my bio and my bonus child has told me they hate my guts, but I don't love them any less. I'm there for them. And kind of what you were talking about earlier, we're the ones that are there no matter what. I'll be honest, the relationship I have with my bonus daughter is strained. There's details with that. I wish it was better, but it is what it is. And there's, challenges there. But again, as I don't want to say a dad, but as her parent, male figure, however you want to call it, when I got the phone call, out the door, get it taken care of, make sure she's taken care of, got oil in the car.
And not vegetable oil like the girl on the meme.
No. Yeah.
That was funny. And that was a woman that posted that, and it got hell.
Yeah.
It was funny.
It was funny. I checked if it was virgin or extra virgin oil before I put it in. Checked her blinker fluid, the muffler bearings, made sure it was all good to go.
It smelled like French fries.
And yeah, it smelled. Yeah, it had a nice French fry smell to it afterwards.
You bring up something good though, Dwayne, and I don't guess that we've talked about this here, but this is a very important conversation that I guarantee you a lot of the guys, probably the majority of the guys in this community have went through. When you get after that relationship and you get with somebody, and then if they got kids, blending a family.
Ooh,
okay.
It's a crock pot. It's a slow cooker.
You got 4 different sets of parents here, right? There now, instead of it just being 2, there's going to be all these other different challenges. And then mom had rules with their children, and then dad had his way he did things. Now we bring them in here and there's a culture clash, right?
Oh yeah.
Those first couple of years of blending a family together can be some of the most difficult times out there. Well, you know what? When it's good, it's good. But if it gets bad now, you can't tell me what to do. You can't do this. You can't do this, which is even more important, guys, to get along with the other side, right? I know that there's people like, this is never going to happen. And I get it. I've got some of those situations myself, but I also have a situation where we do get along. And there's no stress with that because we know if the kids do something, I can pick up the phone or they can pick up the phone, call me, and let's do it. I actually sat down and talked to one of the bonus dads. It was giving him trouble, telling him to shut up, telling him to shut up and do all these things. My wife sat there and watched me do this. And I said, dude, I was like, if they ever give you lip, you're the man in the house. You are the one. She needs to respect you. Or if she doesn't, give me a call and I'll let her know that we're on the same page.
There you go.
What they told me,
United
gentlemen?
front.
You know what they told me? I don't need you. I'm a man. I don't need to talk to you. I don't need to call you. I'll handle it on my own. That was how my olive branch was received.
Yeah.
Don't be that guy.
Yeah.
Don't be that guy. Get over yourself, man.
Exactly.
You know what? If I had one of those stepdads or that became my situation, he's like, hey, man, is it okay if I call you? Like if the kid's acting up, they're not listening to me, they're not doing their chores, or they're staying on the phone too late, dude. I would eat that up. Yes, I'm here. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Some of these guys can't do it. We could help our other brothers if we could get over that pride, man. But that's just something that happened not too long ago. I remember I was like, dude, call me. I was like, really? Seriously, I want it. Let's do this. They should not be telling you to shut up. They should not be telling you that. I don't need you. Don't be that guy, man.
Yeah. Someone's got to be the adult in the relationship. What I've told, my wife and I first got together and started, I'm like, all right, this is a crock pot. This is a slow cooker. That's how if the blending is ever going to work, it's not a microwave. You don't just, slam us all together and heat us up to 1,000 degrees and it works out. No, it's a slow cooker. Different parts, the carrots are going to warm up at a different time than the roast beef and the cabbage or however you make your crock pot creations and stuff. And there's going to be setbacks. Sometimes the peas don't ever get unfrozen, and you got to work. And there's got to be just a lot of stuff in there. And one of the challenges that you touched on it is that in this house I'm the man of the house. And, you know, my bonus daughter, who's not my biological child, you know, she's always naturally going to go to her mom. I mean, that just for a number of reasons makes sense. One, two girls. I mean, there's that, you know, the dynamic, but, you know, trying to keep everything under that, you know, that umbrella of the, you know, the headship of the house on down, and having that, God, what's the word I'm looking for? It's almost like a biblical term. Just being, well, I'm trying to find the better word for it, but patience and understanding. And, you know, when I make decisions and when I take action and stuff as the head of the household, it's always for the good of the family. And it's always looking out 1, 5, 10 years. Like, what's going to be the benefit of this action? You know, sometimes, you know, it's a grounding. Sometimes it's a letting off. And you know, I got to tell you, I'm an old softy. I know I don't look like it, and especially as the pissed off parent, I'm a softy. My wife is probably watching this going, oh my God, this guy is not a hard case. I am the biggest softy in the world. But blending that family is such a difficult thing. It's all these dynamics, but you have your rules in place. You got to put everything together. I know, Eric, you're right. You're going to jump in. You're like, got some thoughts.
Oh yeah, because you know, let me say, Dwayne. So we talk about these situations where there will be, and we're talking about the narcissistic bio moms or whatever. I hate using that word, but you guys know the type we're talking about. I'm not just talking because there can be challenges without the narcissistic bio mom and just blending a family, because it can be difficult, whether you got all the mental issues and all that other stuff.
Right.
But in the cases where she's trying to get the kid to call the other man daddy because you want to do this with the bio dad, the crazy thing is they want the man in the house. They will tell you they want the man in the house and they want masculinity until dad tries to be dad.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Usurping the authority.
Are you feeling me? Are you picking up what I'm
feeling?
They want you to be dad until you start saying, hey, I don't think they should be doing that. Hey, they're on their cell phone too much. Hey, they need to go get a job. Hey, they don't need to be sitting in their room all day. That's when they no longer want you to be the man of the house. It's, you know what? We got a different way of doing it. I think they're doing it okay. Don't talk to me about it. Yeah. And that's wrong, man.
We talk about, you know, mom's counterparenting or parents counterparenting. How about within your own household? When you have that new blended family, I'll bet you right now, that's never been talked about. That needs to be talked about, because that's a huge dynamic.
Future subject. And we got several of these comments that I got to get to, and we got a couple of voicemails too. So let's mark that one down. I'm sure a lot of you guys got experience in that. Ballers on YouTube, Cornell wants to know, are you still paying child support of the child that's not yours?
Well, that's a great question, Ballers. But as of February the 6th, 2003, I'm completely out of the system. Using the law that I co-wrote with the state of Georgia, I walked out of court a free man, and I literally sang this short ditty to myself. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last. But the judge stuck me on the way out. He said he would not sign the order vacating the previous arrears and the future payments and the other things that I want, unless I waive my right to sue Cupcake. Man, I was ticked. It took about 45 minutes of going back and forth with my attorney. And after I'm like, well, and then to add to it, he said, and if I didn't like that, I could start the lawsuit all over again. At this point, I'm 5 years in the court battle all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. There ain't no way I'm going through this again.
How is that in the best interest of the child?
They didn't care anything about that.
I forgot.
And by the way, best interest of the child does not include you getting to see the child on a frequent and consistent basis, because the standard formula is once every other week and once every other weekend. One day every other week and 1 day out of the weekend.
2 hours,
2 hours. Effectively, you get less than 20% parenting time out of the month, and that's if the other parent doesn't interfere. But guys, what we should tell the Dad Talk community, this thing we're talking about is called counterparenting. This is not a new term.
No.
If you Google the term counterparenting, you'll find here's some examples, and somebody out there in Dad Talk going like, oh man, that's me. They let the kids do things the other parent would never allow. They badmouth the other parent in the presence of the child. They tell the child, the other parent. Now, let me stop making it generic. Let's do it because this is dad talk.
Bring it, man. Bring it. Let's go.
When mom tells the kid that dad is to blame when something goes wrong. When mom prevents the kid from talking to dad during visits, after visits, and after bringing the kid home. And you can't text the kid. You can't even get a voicemail from the kid. And when she sees that the call is from you, swipe the voicemail. When mom encourages the kid to disobey you. When mom tells the kid, your daddy doesn't love you, your daddy doesn't want you, and thinks she's punishing you, but she's really emotionally abusing the child. And why am I hopping on this as dads? Because out of 1,000 dads, out of 1,000 non-custodial parents, 800 of those are dads. And we're talking about the majority. And the culture, by and large, says, well, you know, we know about all these bad effects of fatherless kids, but they don't address the fact that these kids that have a dad who wants to be in their life can almost get no help without having to come up with some superhuman strategies and build himself a team and get in contact and network with other dads who finally won, that he can't even get the judge to enforce the order that the judge signed.
And we care about fatherless statistics, right?
Oh, put it up, man. Put it up.
Oh my God. I'm with you, man.
Because look, dads who want to be dads, who want to be actively involved, dad is the number one reason where teen pregnancies go down. Dad is the number one reason where boys and girls do not end up in the juvenile justice system. Now, I'm going to throw this stat out there. I saw the data that says when they talk to prison inmates, almost 90% of them were from single mother homes. And these men in the prisons had been led by an emotionally led household. And some of them, when they finally got a chance to talk to their dad and found out the reason they didn't get to see their dad was because mom was trying to prove a point about how much better she was and how much it was, you're my child and what I say goes, and they don't need you. And you, by the way, I'm a strong, independent woman, and you better have the child support here by the second, or else I'm gonna go tell the judge.
Yeah, on my screen, I got 4 fast facts on fatherlessness popped up there if you want to share that info. 90% of runaways, 71% of school dropouts, 85% in prison. And here's a kicker. 75% of rapists from fatherless homes because they didn't have someone that taught them. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Those are hard facts.
Because dad will teach the boy, hey, just because there's, little Cupcake Jr. there who is offering you something for free, says what's offered always comes with a price tag, son. It's going to cost you more than you planned on. And then help the boy understand why he should not become a teen father. And he has to take all of the decision making to make sure that he doesn't become a teen dad, and tell him about the successful ways that is done. And he can never rely on her decisions and her choices for not becoming a parent. It's got to be him, because he'll be stuck with the long-term consequences for what he was deeming as a short-term relationship. Ooh, that's not going to make me popular.
So guys, I want to get through these comments. We're going to try to get through them because we got a lot to get through, and I want to get to the voicemails as well. This next one, we got to answer kind of carefully, and you'll see why. It's a 3-parter. Paul on YouTube says, this isn't my story, but a close friend of mine. I don't know exact details from the courts, but he ended up having to do counseling with his son. The mother's new relationship was with a cross-dresser. The son ended up wanting to wear women's clothing. Son is 10. Well, bio dad isn't happy and says it will not happen at his home. The courts kept him from his son because he was teaching him fire and brimstone theology. What right do courts have to tell a parent how to raise their children when no abuse is happening? I think there is abuse happening, but I'm not going to say on which side. This is one of those things. Look, guys, I read it, and I read it for a reason. And you can see these gentlemen on the screen. I can guarantee you know their thoughts on this particular subject. This is the next big thing to hit family law. It's already there, but I'm telling you, it's going to be the next big thing. Jeff Younger. That's $1.5 million that he spent fighting the transitioning of his son. There's going to be so many different places, psychologists and stuff, where there's going to be an opportunity to make money. And it is happening. It's what's in our world right now. I mean, let's speak at it from this perspective. Okay. Should the courts be able to tell parents how to parent their kids?
No.
And I'm going to say, I understand the whole thing about the fire and brimstone theology, that that father is being discriminated on the basis of religion, and he could raise a constitutional argument on that. But do you know what? Because we often don't know what our rights are, we don't know legal remedies, we often don't apply a strategy that would help us be able to go in and assert our rights and be able to prevail against the judge, because that can be an issue you could push for a jury trial on. Okay. Now, I'm going to say it this way. You have two choices. If you're not getting the outcomes that you desire or need in the court arena, you can either keep complaining and do nothing about it, and I guarantee nothing will change, or find out from people who have done it successfully, what are the steps, how did they do it, and see what it will take to duplicate that level of success, understanding that it may be a long game, meaning you might not be able to walk in one court hearing and get it done. But I can tell you, people, that a couple of key things I've seen people do that end up being useful for the long game. Walk in prepared with their team, their squad, if you will, and they bring in their own court reporter. You can hire a private court reporter. And guess what else I did that most people right here, including my brothers here on the panel, would never think of? I brought in the media and had 2 television crews in the courtroom on my case.
That's where usually they don't want to touch it.
Everything that the judge did there was because my case was of not just my interest. At this point, I had collected the data relevant to my whole state, and I was talking to the legislators about what was happening in our state. And then I brought in victims who were affected by the issues. And then I also brought in the national data. This was data that the legislators could independently fact check, say it was corroborated independently. So at that point, I had major credibility, and it wasn't just me. But what happens a lot is we walk in with a more myopic view, and we think it's just us, and we only go in and just talk about our case, when we are a whole lot credible. If we walk in and say, you know, if our state has 5 million kids in supposedly fatherless homes, I have 1,000 dads here saying they're being blocked by the court from being an active dad, and they're here today to provide active testimony. And by the way, here are the grandmothers on his side that's blocked. Here are the aunties here that's blocked. We have 4,000 people here with us. But you know what happens a lot here in the Dad Talk community? We'll make a call to action, and the Dad Talk team will show up with the television crews, and he'll ask for people to show up and speak out. And it'll be just the Dad Talk Today crew with the cameras and a few supporters. And we'll miss that window of opportunity to bring a national spotlight on the issue, because we don't think there's nothing that can be done about it. We don't do anything about it, but we'll complain on the internet. We'll complain on Facebook. But then when we need you to show up in a venue where you can make it count toward a long-term strategy, some of us won't show up.
Were you down here 3 weeks ago?
And then we will become the blame for why solutions aren't happening. It's easy to shift that that blame. I mean, he's telling the truth, guys. We could sit here and do this every day and fight, but unless you show up and unless you participate, I mean, it's something as simple as when I say like, share, and subscribe. We got more viewers than we got likes right now. How many of you have done it? We don't just say it to say it. Like, share, and subscribe. Get it out there. Make sure that the people that are out there are getting this. And this issue that this gentleman is bringing up right now, I'm telling you, it's here, but it's coming, and it's going to come worse. And let me show you one of the things that I think you can present, okay, that shows it from an educational standpoint. So we're just going to do this from the research right here.
Go ahead.
This one right here is from PubMed. Can you guys see this?
I might want to increase your screen. It's a little.
I might
control,
not be able
do
to.
Control plus, Eric, and increase the size of the screen.
Let's see, Control.
I'm going high beam on the bifocals too, and I can't see it.
It's not letting me. I'm going to read it to you guys, though. It says suicidality among transgender youth, elucidating the role of interpersonal risk factors. This is by PubMed. You can see this. It says abstract data indicate that 82% of transgender individuals have considered killing themselves, and 40% have attempted suicide. That's 2 out of 5 have attempted suicide, with suicidality highest among transgender youth. Using minority stress theory and the interpersonal theory of suicide, this study aims to better understand suicide risk among transgender youth. I don't have to read that whole thing.
No, you don't.
But just to show you that the suicide rate inside of that community is high. Okay. Now, they've got 2 different things, and we've seen this going on in the younger case. You got social transitioning, which is just allowing them to dress like that and call. Then there's ones that actually want to take it a step further and want to get some medical intervention on this. Dude, that is a very, very big issue that fathers should be able to speak out without them being called all these different labels, right?
Or spit on.
You're misogynistic, you're homophobic, I don't know. There's going to be all these different labels when it could just be a dad saying, look, you know what? When they get old enough, they can do whatever they want to do.
Which is all Jeff Younger said.
Yep.
Look at the research. See what
after 18.
Yeah. That's the thing with Younger's case. In just a 30-second Reader's Digest version, when the child was 6 or 7, his mother, who is a pediatrician, said that the child wanted to be a girl. 6 or 7-year-old kid. I wanted to be a spaceman. I wanted to be a cowboy. I wanted, whatever. He was 6 or 7 years old. You don't know anything at 6 or 7. And so then all of a sudden this fight happened, mostly because she hated, and she's actually not the bio parent of the child.
She is not.
Artificial insemination scenario. It's his biological child, not hers, but different story. And through that, he's over time has had his rights stripped away, and they were looking to chemically castrate this child at 10, 11, 12 years old. The child's I think 10 or 11 now. And it's getting worse. This judge, which I won't say her name, I know that's a hot topic, but this judge, Google's your friend. This judge told Jeff that in order to see this child at a location, it's the child has to be in the dress. He has to refer to him as the name that they've given him as a girl. It's a female's name. And he has to affirm all of that information and all that. That went against his morals, everything else. He's like, I'm not going to do that because of what this judge has said. And earlier in the comments, someone commented about how can these judges, what role they have. And you talk about should judges be allowed to? These judges are doing it. These courts of equity, the judges are making these decisions. Imagine a judge telling you what you can do reasonable with your child. That's happening today in Texas.
Yes.
The Lone Star State, whatever. That's a whole other show there. But that is stuff that's crazy.
Talk about counter parenting. I think there is a video. I mean, guys, correct me if I'm wrong, of little James saying, I want to be a boy, but mama wants me to be a girl.
Yeah.
Jeff got that video. Now think about that. He was 7 years old and then got put in this middle of a tug of war. And now the mainstream media is using it as this big talking subject. And there's still a kid at the heart of this matter Jeff should have a say so. And the crazy thing is, because it's such a divisive issue, there's some that want to give custody back to him. There's some that doesn't even want him around at all.
Oh yeah.
We should be able to speak about this. Carnell, I got you right here, man.
Oh.
Look at this.
Facts about fatherlessness.
All right. So here's what it says. It says in the U.S., there's at least 23.9 million children who, and I'm going to use my version of it, that don't live in the same house with their biological father. And they say fatherless children represent 6 out of 10 teen suicides.
And we're number 1 in the world.
7 out of 10 juveniles in state institutions, aka juvenile justice. 7 out of 10 high school dropouts. Almost 8 out of 10 kids in chemical abuse centers, meaning drug rehab. 8 out of 10 sexually charged, convicted as rapists. Almost 9 out of 10 youths are actually in prison, and 9 out of 10 homeless and runaway kids. And yet they try to say dads don't matter. Well, Dad Talk today says dads do matter. We do matter, because we can make the difference in this right here. However, one of the main reasons we're not being able to yield our influence as a positive guiding influence in the kid's life is because of the other parent, who is mostly mom. Is this an attack on women? No. But for you ladies out here who know women in your friend groups who do this, and you make her feel like she's okay and she's to be heralded as being, oh, she's a single mom in a situation that she created, I think you guys also are required to help call her out, saying you're doing your kid harm by not letting your kid see their dad, and by not letting your kids be all fired up and excited. You should be encouraging kids to have frequent, consistent contact, and encouraging those moms, look, help the kid. Because doesn't that give you some more free time when the kids are away with their dad? Doesn't that give you opportunity, instead of you saying, man, it sure is hard being all by myself raising the kids? And now, if you're in a situation where you got a guy that doesn't want to be involved, okay, that's a different situation. And yep, you picked him. And just like us guys here who are suffering, who went through that stuff when we didn't get to see our kids, yeah, I take the L for that. I did pick her, but I did not want to be separated from my kid. Look at this data. Dads matter.
Well, I mean, this counters the myth that masculinity is toxic, that we're suffering from toxic masculinity. When you see how much these kids are suffering and you see those statistics, it doesn't look like toxic masculinity is the problem. It's a lack of masculinity.
So we need more.
We need more. There was a reason that the father was a target, guys. I really want to get through these because there's some good comments in here. Tom Buddy Fitzpatrick, I'm going to have to read this one from my phone. He said, my son and daughter were rewarded with dogs, video games, food, and shopping. Since the beginning, it was Legos for son if he didn't come with me, although my daughter did and would tell me. They are on the 5th dog. 3 have gone back to shelter. First one traumatized my daughter because she came to stay with me. They are rewarded when disrespecting me and know to lie to me. My ex literally gets off on the kids hurting me. 10 years later, it's still disgusting. I never see them any holiday. Last holiday, I waited for them only to find out on Christmas, ex took them to IHOP and I never saw them.
Yeah.
Could you imagine, like, why would you keep them away from their dad on Christmas and take them to IHOP when he might have had something special? They are afraid that that kid might love that other parent more. The thing is, the kids love both parents.
Exactly.
They love both parents. And why do you feel threatened if a kid loves their mom or their dad? Shouldn't that be a healthy thing?
Yep.
You'd think.
This is people that they create these loyalty conflicts. Like, if you love the other parent, you don't love me. And a lot of times it's going to be a custodial parent because they're afraid of them leaving. Because there goes my child support. There goes my paycheck.
Yeah.
There goes my loyalty from you. I can't believe you would do that. Do you know what all I've done for you? Your dad wasn't there for you. Then that's when all that other stuff starts going in there.
And that should never be discussed with the kid.
No, absolutely. Dude, this comment right here just warms my heart. Okay, it makes me sad, but it warms my heart at the same time. Andrew Messer on YouTube said, just listening to these stories makes me jealous. I'm jealous because I never had a father in my life past the age of 6. My grandfather was my father figure until he passed away. I can tell you, Andrew, I have actually heard from many of these guys where if their dad passes away or he wasn't there, where the granddad steps in and then he helps parent the child, but they still had that masculinity. Is it the same as the bio dad? Maybe not, but it's pretty dang close because it's where your bio dad got it from, right?
Exactly.
And I'm glad to know that you had somebody in there. And I'm sorry. We have these great stories about our dads, gentlemen. There is so many people that don't have that. And that's why I fight the way I fight is because I'm thinking like, how many of those kids aren't getting that gift, that knowledge? My dad in 2 weeks, guys, will be dead 10 years. There is not a day that goes by in those 10 years that he's been gone that one of those lessons ain't being used, some of that knowledge. And just when I think I've ran through it all, I get in one of these situations and I pull it out my back pocket and say, my dad prepared me for this.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm sorry that some of you guys didn't get that, but thank
Eric,
you for being here.
Yeah.
Eric, tell them about what happened when you had when you interviewed these girls who wanted to know why the boys were soft.
Well, so it was crazy. All right, guys, I'll present it. And I've put some clips out in the past several days. If you don't want to watch the whole interview, check out some of those clips. They're on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. But there was these girls that went to Clemson, the college, and I went to a young women's leadership summit for Turning Point. A lot of people thought I was crazy for wanting to go to this leadership summit for women. Why in the world would Dad Talk want to be there? So why wouldn't we want to? I wanted to challenge the narrative, gentlemen. And I wanted to hear what the ladies had to say. Because I believe if they heard what we had to say and we hear what they have to say, we might actually find some common ground. And we found a lot of common ground that week. But these young ladies come up and they're like, can we please talk to you? We're having these challenges with these young men and we don't know what's going on. And they're saying, man, like these guys don't want to offer seats because there's these girls out there that if they offer a seat to the girl, they're like, I don't need you. I don't need you. Get away. So the reason they're not being gentlemen anymore is because our professors are telling them that you don't need a man. Masculinity is toxic and, you know, don't get involved with it. And so, unfortunately, the boys are hearing it. The girls are hearing it. And men aren't being men anymore. And they're taking away that confidence, guys. But I asked them, you know, they were lucky. All of these girls. I said, did you grow up with a father in the home? Yes, we did. Did you love your dad? Oh, my God, my dad was my everything. It's like, what's the things that your dad instilled in you? And man, they went on and on and on. You could just tell they had some great fathers in their life. And I said, all right, let's get to these boys. I was like, tell me, what is the boys missing? They're missing confidence. They're missing morals. They're missing all these different things. And she just keeps rolling through it. And I said, you know what, ladies, it's interesting because everything you're telling me your dads have is what's missing in the men or the boys that you're going to school with. You know what else is missing with a lot of those boys? What's that? Dads. And it was one of those.
Click.
Yeah. They said, we never thought of that. And it makes
they're not taught it.
Well, they're not taught that.
Third wave feminism didn't teach that.
I was sitting with my nephew last night, man. He just had his son 6 months old. And they tried for like 5 years to have that baby. So that baby is a miracle and it's a blessing. And I looked at him. I said, I'm a daughter of 4 girls, but I want to tell you something. Dad,
yeah,
you better prepare him.
Yes.
You better prepare him because nobody else is going to. I prepare my girls. I had a conversation with one of mine yesterday. It was like, how are you supposed to treat a guy? And she started talking about, I told her how I expect her to be treated, but I was like, is he responsible for your happiness? No. I was like, is he responsible to buy you every meal? No, we can do it for each other. I was like, okay, she's good. But I'll do that every once in a while just to make her realize like, nope, you're not entitled to nothing. You know, I'm going to make you earn. And I want to, as much as I want somebody to treat her right, I got to expect as her parent that she's going to treat them right.
Absolutely.
I don't see many parents doing that now.
No.
And then you'll get counter-parented for that too, right?
Yeah.
Let's be honest. But yeah, dude, everything that those girls said their dads instilled in them was everything that the boys were missing. I have to think that there was probably a common denominator in fatherless homes. I mean, dude,
Yes.
when I look at Jeff Younger at UNT and those kids,
Yes,
I wouldn't make a bet
they're fatherless.
that the
homes.
majority of those kids were fatherless.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That was the first thought I had. These are fatherless kids. Now, controversial subject, but let's go back up to above. And we had some other people that chimed in and said, that's my situation. The next big thing about family law, look at how many fatherless children there are. And so what happens when that kid ends up fatherless? There's only one parent playing that role, and that's what that kid's seeing. Okay.
Mhm.
And when they're told that masculinity is toxic, they're told that men are no good, you don't need a man. You wonder why these kids don't know who they are or why they don't want to be who they are.
Yeah.
Don't tell me that's not playing into the confusion, man. And I brought that up with the politicians at CPAC. I never thought of it that way. Like, maybe you
Yep.
should start digging deeper and having some more conversations,
Yeah.
right?
And
Because
we're thankful
fatherless,
that you are out there having the conversation, Eric.
well, that's it,
But
man. Fatherless,
that's how things get started toward the path of solutions.
absolutely, man. I mean, Pasquale, he said, yes, it's happening to me right now. He's another one of these
See,
that are going on. Giovanni Patterson, I appreciate this on YouTube. This man ran for office up in Baltimore. Great candidate, man. He said, when men speak out about issues we face, why do women say, just be a man and deal with it? All the while, women can put unlimited obstacles in front of men. Thanks, Giovanni. That's my buddy
Yeah,
right there.
yeah,
But he
yeah.
brings a good question, guys.
yeah, and I can answer some of that. At least
Let's
let me
do
take the
it.
swagger at it. All right. Because by and large, with the radical feminist ideology, this third wave, originally feminism was supposedly taking a stand and a shot for equality. Okay. And I supported that group, mind you.
Yeah.
And
Warren Farrell.
I would have considered myself a feminist under that group. But this new group doesn't even want to treat men as human beings
Right.
who have emotions, who have thoughts, needs, and desires, and that they actually have a vested interest in their kids being successful in spite of the culture.
Yeah.
But they don't also like this part. A lot of these moms who counterparent against the dad believes the child is her property, hers and
Oh, yeah.
hers alone.
Mhm.
What she
I am mom,
says
hear me roar.
goes. But yet, at the same time, making this push for strong, independent woman don't need no man. They want to use the bully pulpit in the family court to take your money. And
Yep.
even if you could walk in and show that you were the person who had the kids 6 days out of the week, if you walk in unprepared, man, they'll apply the standard formula to you. And what is the standard formula? 1 day out of every week, and once every other weekend, and 2 weeks in the summer to see your kid. What does that do? That reduces the impact and the influences of the father and the masculine influence on that boy and that girl. But yet, when these kids get in trouble later, some of these same moms who were destructive counterparents, and I like how Larnell says it, for those who do that, they are literally baby mama terrorists, BMTs, AKA cupcake, that those people right there are actually doing more to harm the emotional well-being of their child and the upbringing of their child, because they're absolutely insistent that their emotionally led and driven lifestyle is right. And the results say they're not right.
That's it, man. I got one for you, Cornell. This
All
should
right.
be an inspirational moment.
Good.
And if you get your bat ready, I'm about to throw the ball to you, and I think you can knock this one out the park.
All
Comes
right,
from
let's see.
Pasquale talking about that issue. Okay,
Mhm.
he said they told me, LOL. They say I do not use proper pronouns and that I misgender my daughter. But when giving, hold on, here's the part that I think you're gonna like, because I guarantee you was in the same arena as this next part. He said, no one is winning this issue. Not in Illinois, I can tell you that. Cornell, how many people were winning in paternity fraud when this became your issue? And I'm sure it had been going on for eons up until that point.
Man, when I got started, I could only find one state that had a remedy against paternity fraud in 2002, and that was Ohio. And the only reason I knew about that was the guy who I did a story with on the CBS Early Show. This guy, his name was Dennis. Guy was a corporate recruiter, and he was an executive recruiter. This gentleman, he says, when the girl, well, you know, the lady who became his wife got pregnant, she says, if you don't marry me, I'm going to abort the baby. Faced with that choice, he married her with a gun to his head. And don't think that her abusive ways ended there. It got so bad during the marriage that he just says, I can't take it no more.
That reminds me of Gone Girl.
Yeah. But
listen, with Ben Affleck and what's her name?
I don't know that one, but listen, he found out later that the kid wasn't his. So because I met him and I took the time to study how Dr. Martin Luther King got changes done. And because every hearing I win, they said, well, we understand that it happened to you. We get that. Okay. And we saw what you did when we asked for the public hearing and you packed a room with women and men who were affected by this issue and kids who were affected by this issue. They said, well, what do you have by way of statewide data? So me collaborating with the guy who was the primary citizen who engaged with the state representative, Peter Lawson in Ohio, that led, and by the way, Peter Lawson was an attorney. So we got to be careful on taking shots at all attorneys. All right. Yeah. We know that sometimes we do know for a fact there's major opposition against parenting reforms and family court reforms by the Bar Association section who deals with family law by and large, because they came out against me too. But what if I had taken the defeatist attitude that there was nothing that could be done? So what we're going to say to the gentleman is not just Illinois. Excuse me. If Kentucky and more than 15 other states have addressed the issue to make sure they represent the constitutional protections, you know, that Granville v. Troxel case that recognized the constitutional right of a parent that, barring evidence to show them as being an unfit parent, had an unrestricted, unfettered right to parent their child as they saw fit while the child was in their custody. Unless somebody's going to take the charge now, had I just stopped with saying, well, oh, woe is me, Georgia would not have joined Ohio in being the only other state that has an unlimited challenge for paternity on the books. And that led to then me going to Florida, Wyoming, Michigan, California. I've submitted legislative proposals, by the way, at the state of Texas. They had actually asked me for a brief in terms of model legislation. I provided it, but I told them there's quite a few steps to executing it. And so far, nobody will follow all of the steps of what we did. So It has come up on session after session after session, and they still haven't gotten it done yet. But maybe in 2023, somebody is willing to take the charge and go about it differently. Found out, how did Ohio do it? How did Georgia do it? How did Florida do it? And a few other states. But as long as those of us who are affected think nothing can be done, then you're right. Nothing can be done if we do nothing to help change it.
That's it, brother. And I hope I don't offend any wives with this, because I'm pretty confident in this before I go into it. I'm going to bring your wives into this along with mine. Issy Blanks, he brought up a comment. He said, you men have a good message, but the hints of simp are unreal. Bonus child. You bail this pretty much adult out and she still gives you shit. Wake up, man. You know what? There is a lot of guys out there that have bailed these women out and then they end up going through these issues. But these problems with a blended family can even happen in good marriages, man. This is a common issue that can happen. I mean, are your wives people that would not be able to exist if you wasn't there and financially carrying them, or could they be strong and independent, but they choose to do this with you?
Is that question to us on the panel?
That's both of you.
All right. considering that I make about 5 times my wife's salary, I'm going to say that the fruits of my labor afford her a lifestyle that she could not do on her own. But I'm going to say that during the time that I was vetting her, 2-year vet, that I found out she didn't operate, think, and move like this third wave feminist. In fact, she detests third wave feminists, and she'd be the one to sock them in the mouth.
I mean, it's pretty much the same here, man. I mean, to be honest with you, I understand what he's saying. If you're talking about one of these ladies that has nothing to bring to the table other than I'm here, and then you got to, like the ones that just suck the life out of you, like vampires. You got to provide everything for me. I bring nothing to the table, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I would agree with you. There's some of these women here, okay, that have put just as much in, and that you got to do extreme vetting, like Carnell's talking about. And even in those relationships, guys, is your relationship or your marriage without problems? I'm sure every once in a while you have some disagreements. Yeah. And over the kids, when you got all these different people that are involved, and there's 4 different parents, 4 different cultures, and they're all clashing, this kind of stuff can happen.
Yeah.
It just can happen. That doesn't mean it's a failed relationship or a woman that you bailed out that's just crapping on you. It can be with good women too, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're getting real. I mean, as Carnell and you mentioned, I mean, do I make more than my wife? Yes. I mean, actually, she was going back to school, trying to provide, again, it's kind of results of her previous marriage, trying to better herself. But, getting right down to it, would be unable to, survive for the most part. I mean, could probably eke out, a living, but definitely, as Carnell mentioned, my income provides a notch up in lifestyle and being able to afford her the opportunities that she wouldn't have available to her across the board. And that's one of the women a lot of times, again, the monkey branching, hypergamy, look to men provide security and things, and men generally, and I gotta speak for myself, I'm looking for love. I want a companion. I want a partner. I want someone that I can, lock in with and build an empire. Yeah. And, did vet her. The timing was, there was different pieces there, but, she was estranged. Boy, this is getting real on. She'll probably kill me after this. But she'd been estranged from her father for years due to a mother that, did not think highly of her husband. She is women are powerful, strong, and all that. And there's some funny comments I could make there. But she had recently, or not recently, but had met or rekindled her relationship with her dad, and it was great. I mean, seeing that, and I did a lot. I mean, not to sit here and brag that, it was me, but that was one of the things as a healthy relationship. I wanted her to have a relationship with her dad, her mom, her sister, her daughter, my bio children, and have friends and all those layers out there. Because that's what makes a healthy person. Yeah. As you know, when you're dealing with a narcissist person that just demonstrates narcissistic things, and they pull you away from your friends and your family and all that, it eats at your soul.
It does. Well, and so I want to go back to what Ishi says. All right. If you are having to bail this woman out that is nothing but a drain on you, wake up, get out.
Yeah.
100%. I know this is probably, this is MGTOW related, but dude, I am with you all the way.
Well, maybe before we say get out, you need to have a come to Jesus meeting with her.
You flip the tables over.
Yeah. You need to come in. You need to come in and talk about, okay, we are not going to have a battle every day I come home over the position for who's the leader in the house.
Right.
Now, you have strengths and I have strengths, but there has to be, but there has to be a decision maker when things get to a point where we don't get stuck into an emotional circle going around. Well, do Do I take the money and go shopping, or do we build up our 6 to 12 month emergency fund and we cut out all
not just me,
shopping?
honey.
We cut out all non-essential shopping until we build up our war chest. We're going to take care of the basics. We're going to take care of the fundamentals. We're going to make sure the bills are paid. We're going to make sure that we keep our credit scores at peak and optimum. We're going to make sure we correct matters. And we're not going to go out there and do like a lot of the community, get paid on Friday, broke on Saturday. We are not doing that. And we are going, but now, if you don't want to cooperate with what I need for you and I need from you, then your actions say that you don't want to be in a further relationship with me, and I'm going to take the active steps to free you up for other opportunities. Yeah. You will be fired, and that will get the attention. But then you cannot be the person who makes idle threats. This is not a threat. Right. I cannot make you do something you don't want to do. I'm telling you what, if you're going to stay in this marriage with me, this is what I require. And I'm willing to hear from you what you need. I'm not going to say we got to save 100% of the money and that you can't ever shop at all. Right. But if we don't have an emergency fund so that if I, as the major breadwinner, lost my job and we don't have an ability and your income is not able to maintain the expenses, then we cannot be sending money out the door faster than it's coming in.
What if you end up in one of those relationships, you're only like 6 months into it and she's not working, and then she says, you need to marry me, and half of everything you own is mine?
This is where you have your extreme vetting, man. I went through my wife's financials.
Oh, he went there.
Deep, and her credit score, everything in advance of the wedding. And I made her get things. Well, okay. I strongly encouraged her on things that needed to be addressed. Man, she was paying for other people's stuff. She was giving out her money left and right. And I was like, hold on. There's a difference between helping people and enabling people to use you.
Right.
And I showed her stuff, right? And today she's living in a house where the only bill that we have is the house. All the cars are paid for. The emergency fund is loaded. The investments are happening. I have her investing in a strategy across 6 different mutual funds with a growth strategy and a protection strategy involved.
We need to get that in here for the guys too, man.
Look, her husband used to be a licensed security salesman. Man, I used to sell mutual funds. And what I learned in terms of the financial industry, I got her to apply it. And I told her, I says, listen, while your girlfriends are out there spending their money buying a Chanel bag and they're walking around with a bag, and now they got to go work 2 jobs to show off this car that they keep buying new cars every year. I said, they're blowing money on depreciating assets. I says, I'm going to show you how to play the long game, but I need you to work with me and I need you to follow my lead. And as a result, my wife was able to take 10 years out of the workplace when we had our daughter, and none of her girlfriends could do that.
Are we ready to go scorched earth? I just want to...
I'm sorry.
Let's go scorched earth, because again, a word that most women it freaks them out is the obey word or man of the house. You know, a couple phrases there.
Oh, we saw Cornell correct that. I asked her.
And I would like to just finally, once and for all, I mean, I've sat down and I've had that conversation with my wife on what that means and what head of the household means, and what it doesn't mean, and what, you know, all the different pieces of that. And I would love, I mean, again, this is probably scorched earth for everybody. Carnell, what does man of the house mean to you, with an example or two of the positive and the negative part of it?
Does it mean Al Bundy with his hand in his pants on the couch?
I don't particularly think that's the example.
All right. No. Second choice.
My example would be, it is not a dictator who's a bully and a tyrant. It is not someone who is like, everything is my way or the highway. I approach it from the position of a servant leader who has a focus of a mission about what's best for the household. And sometimes it's going to involve some uncomfortable truths.
Yep.
You might feel good to go take your entire paycheck and go shopping at the mall and come back with a whole bunch of stuff from those. And you got 52 pairs of shoes in the closet. You got 12 outfits that are still in the bags and haven't even been opened up. That is irresponsible behavior, and it is going to be detrimental toward our long-term strategies.
Yeah.
And sometimes our short-term cash flow, that where if we have a situation happen to where, our real estate taxes went up on our house significantly based on property values going up. But when that happened, I didn't even blink, because she has been cooperative with the plan I have laid out, and she's doing the things that I've asked for our household, such that we are able to be in a position to where we're not struggling from paycheck to paycheck. Because when you live in a hand-to-mouth fashion, spending the money as fast as it's coming in, when the unexpected things occur, the unexpected expenses happen, when the car breaks down, when you least expect it and desire and need it, you don't have the ability to do it without dipping into credit debt. So as an example right there, I've shown and helped my wife to manage her cards, paying them off every month. Mm-hmm. And even though, yes, you could go out there and do this other shopping, but are you able to do more when we could say take off a couple of weeks, take 2-week vacation and all that stuff? And by the way, she doesn't have to work an extra job, and I don't have to work an extra job, all because we become disciplined and managing our funds. And budget is not a cuss word. That's not me trying to dominate her and keep her from having fun. I'm saying we may need to reduce this so that your fund money might be, say, $100, and do whatever the heck you want to do with that. But now, if your paycheck's $1,500, do you go take the whole $1,500 and go to and pay for your whole crew of friends you go out with, and your husband will be saying, nope, we're not buying everybody's dinner. Those are grown adults. Now, there's a difference between helping people when you want to help in the way that you want to help. And there's a difference between that and enabling people who go out and blow their whole paycheck and will spend all of the money you're willing to dump in their hands, and then they'll come back for more. Now, that has worked for us. And guess what? We end up not having to fight over money. We're not having these bad conversations over, oh my gosh. A lot
of divorces, how do they happen? Over money.
Two of the major things that divorces end up over: lack of communication,
strange penis,
and the money. And money issues. And a lot of times I see guys think that because she wants a brand new living room set and she wants to redo the kitchen for $25,000. And I'm like, is this a want or is this a need? This is where I start my discussion right there. And is it going to impact our current short-term, intermediate, and long-term goals? And if it's going to derail one of those, then on the basis of it being a want, not a need, I'm going to veto it. And we don't have, and look, and she doesn't whine and go, well, you won't let me do what I want to do and all that. No. She's seen the results. We've been married 31 years. She's found that I'm highly reliable and I execute great judgment. Does it mean I'm perfect? No.
Oh, yeah.
There's a difference between a leader and a dictator, like you were saying. You were not saying leader of the household because I demand you do this, I demand you do that, and that they just willingly want to do that. She says, you know what? I love you, and I love you, and I'm going to trust that you're going to do what's in the best interest of our marriage, of our home, and we're going to do this together. We're going to play different roles, but we're all trying to go to the same place. You know what? I'm embarrassed to say this. The woman I'm married to now, because she was doing everything right. You talk about that vetting, Carnell. I wasn't looking to get into a serious relationship at that point in time, and it just happened. I tried to break up with her so many times. Baby, you're just going to have to forgive me for this. And I want to say why. There was something that brought us to crazy, right? There was something about our childhoods or something that made us pick the people that we did, which is why we're in the situations that we are here now. Everything she did was right. And it scared me because I wasn't ready for a committed relationship. So every time that she would do this, like, I mean, dude, I think the first time we went out to eat, she bought my supper. And I was like, what's going on here? You know? And when I first met her, it was when I was about to go through a knee surgery, dude. I was out of work for like 6 months. Dude, she showed up every day, bringing me food.
She's a keeper.
And making sure she was getting my medicine and all these different things. I'll even give you one better.
Yeah.
Like it was doing everything I could to get a car. And she was just telling me, like, I'll put into you what you put into me. And it was a joke one day when we was dating. I was like, you'll buy me a car? Mm-hmm. She's like, yeah, I'll buy you a car. And we laughed about it. Mm-hmm. Dude, I forgot about that. Mm-hmm. Right before we got married, we went to go look at a new car one day. And then she said, I'm going to sign for it. And she signed for it. And I was like, what are you doing? She's like, you remember I told you I was going to buy you a car?
Wow.
And I was like, whoa, man. And because everything was going right. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. Because everything was going right, I was trying to shove it back. And I realized, man, I was about to, I mean, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. So there are ones out there. Yes. I'm telling you that she came to me when I didn't have much to offer, but a bunch of debt and baby mama drama.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, a lot of these stepmoms and new girlfriends and stuff, they don't get the credit that they deserve because they step into some of this baby mama drama and they're completely opposite because we finally picked right. And then sometimes they have to do the communicating because we can't even sit and talk to them.
Yeah.
You know, so there's a difference between that leader and that dictator. And, you know, yes. I was sharing this with you not too long ago, Carnell. This time last year, I had $100 left in my banking account. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know what I was going to do. Mm-hmm. She didn't give me a hard time or anything. Mm-hmm. She said, I believed in you. I believe in you. I said, I'm quitting dad talk. I can't do this anymore. Let me go get a 9-to-5 job and everything. She said, you ain't going nowhere. Yep. You believe in that, you stay right there. And there was times that made me get creative. I started selling cars, different things, and I started getting myself out of debt. But when the money came in and I would be all excited, like, yes, I finally got something for the family and I can provide. She would look at me and said, I told you. She had the same look on her face as when I had that $100 in my banking account. That's when, you know, you got the right. She believed in me, man. She believed it. And she allowed me to be the leader and to do what I thought. And that was a risk. Yeah. But I could have never got there. And I couldn't even be doing what I'm doing right now if it wasn't for that. And I'm telling you, they're out there. And I would hate to know that there is a man that would push that away because I tried every time. I'd be like, we don't need to be together right now. Right. Yeah. And it was just because I actually liked her that I was doing that, because when I do that, I get hurt. Yeah. That was that walls that I had put up, like, ain't nobody getting close to me. Get out of here. Yeah. Get out of here. Anyway.
I'll do a condensed version of the conversation and kind of where I was going to it. And again, everyone feel free to jump in, tell me I'm crazy or not. But so when we were talking about it, and I said, okay, it's kind of, the pilot, co-pilot. I try to use a couple analogies. I like to analogize a lot. But I said, man of the house. That doesn't mean that I choose, we both have gifts. She has the gift of style. I don't. She knocked herself out with drapes, furniture, setting the house up, all that stuff. I have zero desire. It's not, but mine are the bigger, I don't want to call it bigger pictures, but I'm like, all right, here's an example, an analogy. I get a job offer to make $1 million a year in Alaska. Well, wait, she wants to go to Alaska, so that may not be a good analogy, but $1 million to go to Alaska. And we're here in Texas, and the family is like, they don't have really close ties. There's not close family, big whatevers. And she goes, I don't really want to go. It's just, and I'm going, look, I get $1 million a year. I've got to make the best decision for the family. I'm sorry that you don't, and again, I'm condensing this way down. So it's not as short as it is, because we're and I'm going through the thought process of, the longer versions. I'm going through all the different avenues because I'm a chess, not checkers guy. And it's like, I've got to make the best decision for the family, not for me, not for you, the family. Yes. And that's when I talk about head of the household, that's what I'm talking about. And that's where We all have our part to play. Someone's got to be the head of this thing, and that's how that works. And I wish people would understand that, because they go, oh no, I can't have them do whatever, blah blah blah. So anyway, very condensed version. I know we've got voicemails and other stuff to get to, but I want to get that out before I get in too much trouble. Anyway, go ahead.
You're fine, man. I said we was going to get to your voicemails. We got a couple of meetings to get to, so we've been going for 2 hours and 10 minutes. I've been enjoying these conversations. I've been enjoying having Mr. Carnell on the show. We're going to continue on with the Cupcake Chronicles, and we're going to do
a lot of candle. We're going to do a cupcake.
Yes, absolutely. All right, guys, let's get into this first voicemail. Tomorrow's episode, I don't know what it is yet, but we'll let you know after this show. 762-441-0281.
Hey, Eric and Dwayne. Thanks so much for all you guys do. Love the different perspectives you each give. This is Jason from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and just calling to talk about the counter-parenting a little bit. So my boys are 6 and 4, and the counter-parenting that's going on is not so much the rules like you described, like a teenager limit social media. Counter-parenting that's going on is I live in my boys' hometown right next to their school district, and their mom keeps trying to move them away. So I enroll them in sports and activities here. And so what she has done is, instead of taking them to sports and activities in their school district, she sends them to the YMCA about 30 minutes south down in her place. It really hurts my 6-year-old. His T-ball got moved from his placement nights with me on Tuesdays to her placement nights with her on Thursdays here in our town. And she refused to take him and said instead she'll sign him up at the YMCA 30 minutes south. Well, that crushed him. He asked her if he could do it here with his friends. She said no. And so she keeps trying to set up a counter community, send him to a therapist down there. And what's most frustrating is the legal process says, well, you should be able to take them in their hometown school district, and she should be able to do it in her hometown. Meanwhile, the boys are being split, and she keeps trying to move them down there. It's very frustrating. So she's definitely been a counter-parent, and what's frustrating is the legal process just says she should be able to split them and not take them to like their T-ball and sports here. So there's more counter-parenting, but that's on my mind now. So thanks for all you guys do, and have a good one.
I appreciate it, man. I mean,
there it is again. It's not
there.
Rare.
It is.
It's not rare.
No.
Yeah. Oh, all the time. Yeah. Wow.
I mean, that's
there may be, if it's written in I don't know if they were divorced, but maybe you can either have it written in, or hopefully it is written in, that there is a thing that talks about activities for the children, where it that they'll go to whatever they want to, or however it needs to be written. But there sometimes is language written into those decrees that talk about that. But yeah, they're obviously not working in the best interest of the child. I mean, the courts definitely aren't. Sounds like the mom isn't. The kids, say, I want to play T-ball here. Yeah. And then making them go to the, to the Y or do whatever it's just ridiculous. But that's just a great example of counter-parenting. It's going to do nothing but come back on her later in life. The kids are going to remember that.
And that counter-parenting is done through the system.
Yeah. Oh, encouraged.
Unfortunately, the system encourages it, and they might say, you got this rule in there, but if she can violate it and there's no consequence, just like if your kid can violate your rules and there's no consequence, guess what keeps them from doing it? Not a thing.
I know, Carnell, you mentioned that there are a few good attorneys, there are a few good judges, and there are, but this is one of those things that when I went through my divorce and all the things I was researching and trying to get inserted into the decree, things like this, the kids, if they want to play sports or social activities, this is how that would work. And when the kid turns 16, who buys the car, where the car stays, who covers car insurance. These are common things that happen across the board. Why don't attorneys and judges put into the default language that information?
They have no incentive. They have no incentive.
And
they have no incentive to do that. So guess what? You have to advocate for the best interests for you and your kid.
Yeah.
And that's again why I would encourage this dad to plug into the Dad Talk community and ask, hey guys, here's the kind of challenge I'm having. Is there anybody here who has has been able to navigate this and flip it around in such a way that it came out best for their kid. Can you help me with the steps and how you did it? Because a lot of times we try to navigate the process all by ourselves, and we keep walking into the courtroom thinking all we got to do is hold our hand up and say, hey, Your Honor, let me tell you what happened and why this is unfair for my kid. Instead of coming in there armed with research that talks about, hey, when you start to disenfranchise this kid from his friends and from his family members and all of the other people that he has grown up with, just because the addresses change where mom and dad live, that doesn't mean that they have to be punished now because mom now wants to go off and establish another village somewhere that the kid doesn't even want to be a part of.
Right. Yeah.
I'm with you, man. Dude, it just brings up, about petty. Man, we've been sharing a lot of personal stories, but this is one that went not long ago. My daughter got into volleyball, and so she was needing a volleyball to practice with, and she said, Mom got me a volleyball, but she said, I'm not allowed to bring it to your house. Wow. And I said, why aren't you allowed to bring the volleyball to my house? She said, well, she got me a ball one time and I don't know where it's at. And I had brung it to the house. And I said, okay. I said, did I play with that volleyball? She said, no. I said, did my wife play with that volleyball? No. I was like, okay. Now your stepbrother and stepsister, did they play with it? No. I was like, so did anybody else touch it but you? She's like, no, they didn't. And I said, so you can't bring it to my house. It just gives that impression,
Yes.
Funny thing is, this is like a month or so ago, maybe 2 months ago. I was cleaning the studio up the other day. Guess what I find?
The volleyball.
A volleyball. And so I take a picture and I send it. And I was like, hey, look what I found. And I was like, is this your volleyball you lost? She was like, yeah. It's like, what was it doing in my studio? She was like, I'm sorry. I was like, all right. But it was just one of those things, like, there is a way that you give an impression to a kid rather than saying, hey, you lost it. You need to keep up with your stuff. We say, I can't go to dad's anymore.
Yeah.
Or they got a backpack. Well, you can't go over to them. You're going to have two different backpacks for school. You're going to have all these separate things. And they make division in with the kids too. So they teach the kids this division. They teach them this loyalty conflict, and then give the impression that if they do something wrong, it's always going to be the other parent's fault rather than telling the kid, stop it.
Exactly.
And
it's not like the kid left the ball intentionally, and it really wasn't that big a deal.
Yeah.
It wasn't, but it was one of those, like, really? Like, I don't believe in talking to the kids too much about it. Every once in a while, something might slip out of my mouth, but it was one of those, like, I got to correct this. And I said, baby, when you get older, don't ever fuss over a volleyball.
Well, let me ask you this question, Eric. If you were the primary custodial parent and considering how much money a volleyball costs, would you have prevented the kid from coming over to the other parent's house with a volleyball just because they lost the last ball?
No.
There must be there's a way you can bring about some form of punishment, right? But do you do it in such a way that you kill the very spirit within the child?
Well, she's not playing volleyball now.
Well.
I got a quick one, and this
I lost connection with my mic. Sorry.
And I may the AITA person here. And this is going to be a real world thing, something for folks to think about. So when my oldest turned 16, worked with him, made him buy his own truck, made him save the money up. When he hadn't got that, there was some shenanigans there. And I went ahead and covered the insurance because we all know how 60-year-old trying to get insurance and all that. The bio mother had zero piece in it. Knowing her past history, the truck had to stay at my house or when he drove to school and all that. And my reasoning behind that, just to throw it out there, was that she's nuts. And she could, under my insurance, cause a car accident or do something silly or use it, whatever. And I'm trying to remove all legal and responsibilities. So that was my rule. I'd be willing. I'm willing to take some heat on this if I'm wrong, but that was my line of thinking. What do y'all think? Don't butter me up.
Right.
Roast me.
I think you're right. I wouldn't roast you. Now, I think you did what you needed necessary to limit your liability on, because your name's on that insurance, I'm sure.
And the truck.
And if he were to get into a wreck as someone under 21, well, for boys under 25, get into a wreck, when they do a rating on that policy,
oh yeah,
you'll take the hit on the increased premiums, and they'll go up through the roof. And ask me how I know.
Oh, you've been through this. Okay.
I've been through that. But in my case, though, my daughter is with my wife, and I got a chance to live with her throughout the entirety of her life, as from infant all the way up to being proud to watch her walk across the stage at Georgia State in May and graduate magna cum laude. But did I give her everything that she wanted and give her everything just because she lived in the household with dad? Right. I believe a couple of billionaires, like Bill Gates says, now, just because I'm wealthy, that doesn't mean my kids are wealthy.
Yeah, no.
I'm not going to give you no smoke, Dwayne. I was like, you limited your financial risk to the actions and the conduct of his already known to be irresponsible mother.
Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Chick-fil-A and Ross, but would you guys consider Chick-fil-A a successful fast food restaurant?
Yeah, wildly.
I would.
Well, me and Cornell, we live in Chick-fil-A land. That's where it was started. And we know who Truett Cathy was. Mm-hmm. I was shocked to see one day there was a local Chick-fil-A there in Columbus. And I go up to the counter, and the guy ringing me up, I kept thinking, man, he looks familiar. Well, then I go and look on the side of the restaurant as you're walking in. You see this. It was the grandson of all Chick-fil-A's running the cash register. And I said, are you kidding me? No, he runs the cash register. He's not too important to do that. And they said, Granddad said, I'm not just going to give it to you. You're going to earn it.
Yep.
How successful is that business?
Yes.
Do you think those kids are going to keep running that business and do Granddad proud? Absolutely. I think so.
Absolutely.
There is some stories of success with that, guys. And with the insurance, Dwayne, you just brought me up a story. This one kind of broke my heart. I started getting into restoring the classic Mustangs. Mm-hmm. And I got a 66 Mustang earlier this year. It was pink, hot pink. Mm-hmm. God, it was horrendous. Mm-hmm. But when I got there, it took a while for the tow truck to get there. And so the guy said, hey, man, you can go out to eat. My son knows where it's at. Go ride with him. Boy was like 22 years old.
Okay.
Just went into the military. He was home on break. Mm-hmm. So me and him go and we hang out, man. And we eat. And it's like knockoff Dairy Queen, really nice. And I really connected with this kid. Mm-hmm. He was getting in his party stages and stuff like that. And I was like, dude, you don't need to do that. But I mean, we just really connected. Yeah. And I lost the title, so I had to get back in touch with him. And just, like a month after I sat there and spent this whole day with this kid, he got in a wreck and died.
Oh, man.
Young man.
Wow.
So there's, when talking about this insurance and stuff, you never know what's going to happen. And there's reasons why these parents have these rules, guys. Yes. And I mean, that can happen to anybody, right? Yes. That's the thing about it. We don't know what later on brings. I mean, when we get done with this show, we don't know if all three of us will show up tomorrow. Mm-hmm. But dads are dads for a reason, because they want to minimize the chances of this kind of stuff happening, right?
Absolutely.
Not just financially, but for many other reasons. Your health, your safety. Mm-hmm. And we've got to have some in this. But I just wanted to say that because, dude, I know I only spent that one day there, but I was talking to his dad. My heart hurt for him so bad. But then again, I was like, this guy was half my age, right? And he was such a bright young man, just went into the military, had everything going for him. You never know, guys.
I never know.
You never know.
Yeah.
You got to continue to be dad. At the end of the day, that's what you got to do, because we never want to hear any more of those types of stories. Unfortunately, they will happen. That's life. We can't block it. But we got one more voicemail, guys. Like I said, we do got a meeting after this, so I'm going to try to get through this. I have been making some notes of future shows, petty things that moms do. It got me thinking about the volleyball and then blending families, the challenges that come with trying to blend two households. And some of them might have been through several divorces before they got there. So they've tried to blend a family before. There's many different scenarios. So those will be coming up. Just watch as we announce them, and give us your voicemail, 762-441-0281. Let's get to our last voicemail of the day.
Hey, Eric. How's it going? This is Jeff. I'm calling from northern Maine, all the way up in Van Buren. Basically, what's going on with me is I got a high conflict ex, and I haven't seen my kids now in about a year and a half. The second Christmas that I've been skipped on. I have custody agreement that says I'm supposed to have first, third, and fourth weekends with them, and that hasn't been being followed. I've been trying to get help with the police station to enforce, even a well-being check, but they're hiding under the no contact order and not doing any well-being check for my kids. And I'm trying to take this through with contempt, and the courts are just fumbling it around, and they're now telling me I have to refile it because some bull crap, and I don't know, it seems like every step that goes forward is they've got a way to loophole around it, and it's just one thing after the other, and the area up here is very how do I say it? It's corrupted. They're crooked. They don't see what reality is. They just listen to what she says, and that's it. And then it's crazy. But I'll try to call back or something and try to get in touch with you more about it. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, man. I do believe, didn't he say Maine?
Yeah, he said Maine.
He said Maine, yeah.
Believe it or not, we was there last year too. In Augusta, went from Washington, D.C. to Rochester, New York to Augusta, Maine, all in one day. We started off in Maine the next day. We didn't get to do much, but we went and marched the Capitol up there. And one thing I did notice about the Northeast is it's women states for sure. That's kind of the way that looks, but you can hear the frustration on this guy. I think many of us can relate to it. I think he's gotten to the point, like, do I keep fighting or do I walk away? And he didn't say that, but I can hear it in his voice. And like you said, Carnell, I mean, if you just leave, what you see is what you get. I understand why some people have to do it.
Yep.
But what are some words of encouragement that you guys could give to this gentleman?
I mean, stay in the fight. Katie Haas, her story from a few weeks ago, having a parent, leave, that was one of her biggest pains, talking about that. When you mentioned, the courts making you refile things, to Carnell's statement many times, they love their paperwork. That's got to be done specifically, Roman 12, all that good stuff. You got to, unfortunately, play part of that game. Now you mentioned a no contact order, which, I sat up like, whoa, wait a minute. Now, if you're talking about a no contact order on you to them, they will arrest you on that. Did I hear that right? I mean, he said no contact order.
That's what you heard.
Okay. I hate to say it, but if it's a no contact order, it needs to be a no contact order. They will pinch you in a heartbeat with a smile on their face. I mean, they enjoy this stuff, that part of it. If it's, I don't know how it wouldn't be the no contact order. I'm trying to think of the other possibilities that would be a no contact order, but he's still able to see his kids supposed to go to it.
There's the other side of that too, that I've heard from some of these guys that got no contact orders, and she'll contact first.
Yep.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Trying to
In
get
Australia.
you to respond. Oh, yeah. Australia is bad about it. It's kind of like the bait and switch type deal.
Mm-hmm.
If they say no contact, you're supposed to have no contact. And if she contacts you, document it and ask a lawyer or a judge, is it okay? because look, you told me not to contact her. She's contacting me. You know, that might be a smart idea, guys. You gotta protect yourself.
Yeah,
They got tricks.
Yeah. Remember what I said about going on offense? See, at some point here, I can completely understand the frustration of losing at almost every turn. But he's got to address that no contact order first in order for him to pursue restoring the normal relations with the kid. So if he is a victim of false allegations, false accusations of DV or something of the sort that allowed them to go most likely get an ex parte meeting, which means you weren't represented. They went and did it all by themselves and a judge and made a claim of somehow being that you are a threat or a danger to her or the child. And it can be done with no evidence. It can be done with enough tears of tear party, how good her acting skills may be. Now, the best possible thing for you is to make sure you are not doing anything to actually make that true. Right. Okay. So if it's all 100% false, I'm inviting him to plug into the Dad Talk community and ask about the people who have gotten victory against false accusations and how did they successfully overturn a restraining order / no contact order, and then go and remedy the situation about being separated from your children and how this has worked against the best interests of the children to disenfranchise them from a consistent quality contact relationship with their father. But if this is frustrating you so much so to the point to where you are willing to use choice words and be very gruff and threaten the mother and say, you know, I should pimp slap you for all the stuff you did. I promise you, what you say can and will be used against you, even if it was frustration. It is bubbling up from the culmination of all the stuff you have put up with. And they lied on you in court. And if you went in there by yourself, this thing was a one-sided circus. Okay. But either you make a decision here and now today. I'm going to walk away from it for my peace of mind's sake and for my mental health. And I completely understand guys who have done that. And it was necessary to save himself because he couldn't keep going back and forth. And he was spending $300, $600 an hour for legal fees. And he was earning $75, $25 an hour. It becomes a juggling act. How long can you keep juggling them balls in the air? Generally speaking, after about 3 years of that, a whole lot of dads end up in bankruptcy court and they end up no longer being able to afford to fight. And it propels a lot of dads then to learn about what does it mean to become a pro se, pro per litigant, because I can't afford to pay for any help. Ask the Dad Talk community. How did they do it? You are not the only one. If you think it's just in your state, it's not just in your state. And so why do we keep talking about this as an issue for dads? Is because most of the non-custodial parents are dads, and victims of false allegations of domestic violence are dads. False accusations of some type of sexual nature are dads. So do you be a victim and just take it? If you have the will to first do steps to take care of you, take care of yourself, do not stop eating, you get your health on par, make sure you're getting adequate sleep and rest. Don't let yourself get in a position where you can lose your job and get fired, because they won't stop the child support order just because you lost your job. Plug into the Dad Talk community. That would be my advice. It's not you, but you can control whether or not what they said about you was true. If you are doing things where you are expressing your angst and your anger in such a way that now that's been used against you, you got to find another outlet for that, to where you don't go pile on to the already bad situation and make it worse, to where you end up with a permanent non-contact, and that they now have it such that if you walk into a store and you see the kids, you have to exit the store such that you crossing that threshold, whether it's 500 yards, 250 feet, whatever it is, on accidental contact. They'll even go so far on the mom's side to claim that you're stalking them, brother. This can get worse. But seeking out help now, or after you get your stuff together, using the Dad Talk community can be a lifeline for you getting victory later.
Absolutely, man. I mean, you guys mind if I close this out with a little bit of humor? You kind of get this. All right. So he talks about you guys going through this and how you got, you know, it feels like you're juggling these balls. Your ex has no problem juggling those all day long. Anyway, sorry. All right.
I was like going with you, like we're
you thought I was serious, didn't you? She'll go on to the next set and just keep juggling.
She'll be monkey branching and riding the sea carousel.
Yeah.
Gotta love it, guys. Gotta love it, guys. I hope you have enjoyed this week as much as I have. Unfortunately, Carnell's got to go back to work because we don't have the funds to pay retirements and different stuff. He's got to go back to the 9 to 5. But this has been an amazing week. Every time I get to sit down with you, brother, is an honor. And thank you for all of the education and things that you have taught me. It's guys like Carnell and Paul Elam and Dr. Warren Farrell. And I don't want to leave anybody out that have been fighting for this movement for decades, guys. And we can take some of that knowledge that these guys have and say, look, I don't want to repeat the same things. Tell me, where would be a good starting point? Show me some of that knowledge. And so every time you do that with me, I appreciate it so much. I try to soak it in like a sponge. And Carnell, as you've seen, I might not always get it right away, but I might go a little bit, make some of those mistakes. And then I'm like, okay, they was telling me right. It starts to click. And I appreciate your friendship.
I applaud you for being, one, willing to hear, and then willing to say, you know what, I want a better outcome. Because I was absolutely thrilled when you took the bold step to just go ahead and try something I asked you to do. And it led to some very positive, successful outcomes for you by willing to say, you know what, you have nothing to lose by trying it, did you?
Well, you know what? One of the most powerful things in this world, guys, is self-awareness. Like, can I be doing something different? It's one thing to sit on here and say what everybody else should be doing, but it's another to say, like, how can I do this different? I could sit there and I could die on that hill, or I could go try a different thing, you know, and sometimes we're wrong. You know, I think there was a lot of merit to, you know, that situation that we was talking about. But at the end of the day, family, dude, I mean, I would rather have family than to prove a point. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's it, guys. I mean, it's precious. Like I said, you never know when it could be your last time seeing somebody. So if there's a situation out there that you can fix outside of the family courts, please go and do it and take that opportunity. I want to take this time again. As I said, I appreciate this man so much. Trapped by Law. Stop paying child support for paternity fraud. If you're going through paternity fraud, or, well, a lot of times if you know it, you know, that's one thing. But a lot of you guys think, I don't have any skin in that game. That's not me. How do you know that? What, because you think they look like you? Because of the eyes? Oh, yeah, you've been tricked by that. Read this book. We have got to get more awareness out there as to how many people these are happening to. Carnell, just rattle off a few of the stats on how common of a problem paternity fraud is.
Thank you, Eric, for that opportunity. I am the author. I'm Carnell Smith, the paternity coach and author of Trapped by Law. And one of the lawmakers in the state of Georgia asked this question. They asked me, well, what was the prevalence of men and boys finding out they weren't the fathers? So I contacted the state lab that the child support agency used and asked them for their 3-year rolling forward data. And do you not know, they came back and said, out of 90,000 tests that they had done, over 30,000 of the guys turned out they were not the dads, and that they had regularly tested 5 to 6 guys to find out who the dads were. And I met 5 pastors who were married, and they were not the fathers either. Now, on the national level, there's over 45 DNA labs that provide legal DNA identification services, and they do over 400,000 DNA tests annually. And they used to have a very easy to find report called the Annual Parentage Study. And it provided the exclusion rate, which means out of how many guys that got tested, how many of those guys came back where he was excluded as being the biological father. Well, that data varied by year, anywhere in the range of, say, 24 to 33%. So as high as 125,000 guys per year, and teen boys. Let me put that there. That means married men, single men, and teen boys turn out to not be the fathers. And that's where I got the data where we knew about over 1.1 million men and boys in a 10-year period. We had the data from the labs who did the testing. Now, did that mean all 100% of those guys were set free? No. If they were in a state that was unfriendly and unsympathetic toward the position that he had been tricked and fugabooed by Cupcake, with her craftiness, because Cupcake sees nothing wrong with being loose with the facts. Cupcake says, Your Honor, the law, if he's a single guy, if he didn't figure it out when he signed that paternity acknowledgement document, he had 60 days, 60 days to file a rescission to undo that document.
Which is crazy. Yeah.
And by the way, that's not publicized. Now, is it publicly available out on the internet? Yeah, but if you don't know that you need to look for it, guess what you end up with? Not knowing about it.
It's in the EULA, which no one reads. Yeah.
And after the 61st day, it takes a court order to undo the deal. And unless you can file a claim of it is a material mistake of fact, fraud, or duress, you will be time limited, and they'll use a defense of laches saying that, well, Your Honor, he's outside the time limits, and we believe that he just found out this 6-month-old is not his. He should be required and ordered to continue paying the child support all the way up to the age of majority for that state. That, in my book, is a travesty to force men and boys to go to jail and prison for pregnancies that we can prove they did not commit, and that the mother knowingly and willingly hid the information that there were multiple people who could be the dads. Let's be honest here. If Cupcake is married, she is not going to tell her husband that she was with the entire bridal party at her, the night before the wedding.
On both sides.
Yeah. She was swinging both sides of the fences. She is not going to tell that. And she is often not going to tell that, well, I had one last fling with my ex. Now, if she, she's an adult, she can do what she want to do and everything, but her being able to pick the father after conception based on which guy makes the most money, or which guy she's in love with the most, or the guy who she thinks would be the best father candidate, that's not how you pick a dad. I think it should be determined by DNA testing at birth. I don't want to have to ask Cupcake anything, because look, we have an environment that supports the fraud, and we have enough cases where Cupcake has proven she will lie. She'll be so loose with the truth that she'll tell the judge, Your Honor, I didn't know he wasn't the dad. But we don't ask the right question. Cupcake, how many people were you involved with during the window of conception for your kid? And did you tell the guy that you claim is the dad, did you tell him that there were 6 other people?
You gave some very interesting information, though, the other day. So you can do the test at 7 weeks or 8 weeks, and there's a 0% chance of hurting the baby or the mother.
Yes. What you're talking about is prenatal legal DNA paternity test. So you do not have to wait till the baby is born now. The advances in biotechnology has advanced so well that you can get a legal DNA paternity test starting at the 8th week number 8. And what'll have to happen is that the mother has to have a blood sample drawn. Which is normal. By the 8th week, there are fetal cells, which is another way to say it. The baby's cellular material is available in the mother's bloodstream by this time, and a sample of the blood will give them the DNA profile for the baby. It'll give them the DNA profile for the biological mother. And all we need after that is to get some cheek cell swabs from the guy. We usually do 2 because they do what we call a double blind test.
Right.
Now, most reliable, most accurate way to do that means they run 2 separate tests of the DNA samples at the same time. And at the end of the series of the test, one of 2 things is going to happen. In excess of 99.9 or higher, you're going to come back and so is the biological father of tested child. Or 0% paternity, so is not the biological father of the tested child. And now you can make an informed decision about the relationship with Cupcake. My opinion is she has shown that she's dishonest, not to be trusted. She is literally playing with your life by having unprotected relations with other people. If you thought you were in a monogamous relationship, you should free her up and return her to the streets.
Absolutely, man.
All right. And they can find you on your website, carnellsmith.com. I was actually checking your pedigree. You've been around. I mean, Dr. Phil.
Just
NBC,
a little bit.
He has you a lot of stuff. And I got to tell you, you are and were a handsome man. Let me tell you that. You have got the thing there. I saw the Dr. Phil picture. I guess I got up on the screen if you want to share.
Can you still do it, Carnell?
Yeah.
Can I still do what?
You got that pose. That one picture.
Got that, yeah. Put that up there.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. Where's that?
Right
Look
there.
at that.
Look at that.
Guys,
Look at that hand. Oh, there you
guys.
go. Look.
Hey, that's when I had more hair.
Hey, I can sympathize with that one. You know, but Carnell, you didn't get on all those shows, and not all of this just fell in your lap. It's not like you just found out you was a victim of paternity fraud, and then you got this passed in the Supreme Court. You got on Dr. Phil. You got on all these shows. There was a lot of work that went into that.
Dude, that's hundreds of hours, and that's me paying for my own PR team. And me doing all those radio, television shows. And by the way, I was on the Dr. Phil show with one of my clients who was a doctor. He was what you call a teaching doctor who trains other doctors. He's on staff at 2 other hospitals. And I did his legal testing. Now, for him, turns out the child is actually the mother's coworker, who was an African-American man. And she felt, his ex-wife felt, that she should still be able to collect $3,000 a month in child support from my client, the doctor, and that is his fault he didn't find out sooner. And he should have to pay child support, alimony, and college for the child she had with her coworker.
Yeah.
And what she hadn't counted on is that, you know, the way you go about setting that show up with the Dr. Phil show and others like that, you have to be doing something for a long time for them to contact you. All right.
Yeah.
I actually had a live debate with feminist attorney Gloria Allred on the stage about this issue because she represented a paternity fraud mom named Amber Fry, who committed the very same kind of thing that my client's ex-wife did. And Gloria represented the mom, saying she should still be able to get the guy's money. Okay. According to the audience, I won that debate. And at the end of the show, Gloria told me, she said, you should go to law school. I think you make a pretty good lawyer.
So she had respect for you.
I felt like I had earned that respect with her. But I have no interest. I have no interest in wanting to be a lawyer. I feel like I'm a lot more effective at helping people become advocates to go out and do it from the level of how to work with their lawmakers. Now, I know there's money in the law field. It's just not something I really am interested in doing. You get me? Mm-hmm. But I will say this. The purpose of Trapped by Law now is to help inspire other people move from the place of being a victim and just sucking it up and taking it to what can I do about the problem as the problem and what can I do about it for my case? So some people are just happy enough to just say, well, man, look, if I can just get her foot off my neck and they stop that order on me, I'm well and good and I don't want to recover anything. And then there's those other ones who were going to do what I was going to do. And that was, I was suing for everything paid plus legal fees, loss of use of my funds, and triple damages for fraud.
Yeah.
Because we know what would have happened had I been the dad and I had refused to pay child support for over a decade after everybody knew I was the dad and I had the money and the ability to pay and refused to pay. I would have been convicted of a 3rd-degree felony of child abandonment. And my ex actually asked the court to put me in jail after the 2nd DNA test proved I wasn't the dad and I refused to pay. The only out that I could see was to go public with this issue. My lawyer told me, well, sometimes the law is wrong. And this is a clear case where the law has to change. And I was like, well, I'll take that charge. But I understood I couldn't just go out seeking legal reform and remedy and make it just about me. Instead,
Bigger picture.
bigger picture. I did what Dr. Martin Luther King did, went out and talked about the issues, the problems, and the victims, and talked about solutions. And the last thing I told the lawmakers was, and I'm part of that group too. That made it very easy for them to hear me. And again, my state rep says that when I asked him to have public hearings, he said, I only expected you to show up with maybe 3 guys at the most. I came with radio, television,
Came loaded to
newspaper reporters. I contacted the faith-based community. I got in contact with paternity fraud victims. I got in contact with wives of paternity fraud victims and women like the grandmothers who had been tricked into supporting a kid that wasn't theirs, but they all still wanted to see the kid. And I invited all of them to come out, man. We packed that room with hundreds of people.
And that's so crazy because this is just one of the issues that's going on with family law, and you're hearing about wives and grandmas and all these different people that you got together. Makes it seem like this problem is much bigger than the world would allow you to know. And is that any different than everything that these dads are going through? Even the custody exchange murders. I had a lawyer that was reaching out to me last week saying, hey, do you have the stats on how many of these guys have gotten killed at custody exchanges? No, I don't. And so I can sit here and tell you, I know that's a big problem and it's happening, but I don't have the numbers because nobody's conducting that kind of research. But you got out there and you did it, man. And that's what makes me have so much respect for you guys. If you get down in the comments on Facebook and YouTube, I put a link there to where you can read more about this Trapped by Law. Stop paying child support for paternity fraud. We got to get out of here because nature's calling with me.
Got it, brother.
At the same time, though, there's one more question. We'll get through it because this could start a whole another 3-hour conversation. But I think we need to answer this for Paul. Paul on YouTube said, has anyone put together a template of ideas to potentially battle this beast? Paul, I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to give it to you honestly. There is no shortage of ideas. Some of them will work, some of them won't, but you don't know until you get out there. But there is no shortage of what could be done and things that could escalate this movement that quick. But there's a shortage of funds.
Yeah.
There's a shortage of funds, and there is a shortage of participants.
Yes.
People participate on the internet, but they don't participate in real life. They support it on the internet, but they don't support it when we need the bills paid and when we need to get plane tickets and stuff like that. We have the ideas, and as you can see, here's a man that got legislation passed in 11 different states. But Carnell, if you wanted to help people pass shared parenting or pass consequences for false allegations or CPS reform and stuff like that, is there any of these advocates that's going to be able to fund that themselves? It's the unpopular truth.
Well, the
But they
unpopular truth is outside of those places where they have a established organization that has its own, they have a nonprofit, they have a 501c3 arm where they do education, public awareness, but they also have a 501c4, which is what can be used specifically to go about supporting candidates and speaking specifically on policy and law and make that the front runner. Now, it's not tax deductible to contribute to a 501c4, but guess what? You need them both, the 501c4 and the 501c3. And let's be honest here. there's only so much you can do when you're running on passion. And I told you this, Eric. I says you
You
can run
did.
for so long on passion, but then when it reaches a point to where now you get overwhelmed by the number of people who need help contacting you, and nobody is helping you pay the bills where you live, you will literally have to back away from the very thing you want to have passion for, because your first duty and your obligation is to your household where your wife and your kids are.
You want me to tell you what running on passion does for you guys? Remember what we talked about with our kids and saying you got to make them earn it or they feel entitled. A lot of the people are out there giving everything they've got, the passion, their money, their life, their time towards this movement. And there will still be people that sit in the background thinking that's not enough and you need to do more, that
Yeah.
haven't invested anything in it.
Yeah.
This movement has entitlement.
Yes.
You feel like just because you're a person that's going through this issue that somebody's got to fix it. Could you imagine if all of us just sat back and did that? And I'm going to tell you, dude, 43 states I ran on passion, Cornell, passion, the airplanes,
Yeah.
rental cars, the whole 9 yards, man. And at the end of it, I was beat up. I was burnt. And at the end of it, I was sitting there looking at the emails coming in saying, Eric, we need you to do more.
Yeah.
I wasn't
Yeah.
getting the ones like, hey, man, we need to help you fund this thing. We need to get some fundraisers. Like you do what you do and let us help on the back end and we'll make sure that you can continue doing it. No, it was just,
Nope.
I need you to do more. I need you to do more. I need you to do more.
Yeah.
I
You're not
understand.
making this up.
No, I understand your attorneys have screwed you, but guys, we're not making money here. And that's not a brag because we need to make money so that we can fight for the movement. The cameras, all this stuff, none of it pays for itself. Even the StreamYard that we're using right now to pull up your comments, like Pasquale down there, every little bit of it has a cost.
And by the
And
way,
this-
it doesn't take everybody contributing thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yes,
$5 a
everybody
month.
doing a little bit.
$5 a month times 10,000 victims. You could
Done.
literally afford to go to every state then and
Yeah.
have a membership supported base. Now, look, and I got to say this, some people think that there's some shame or something against a person who could then be able to afford to be full-time available toward the movement. I'm going to tell you how many people came to my aid when I came to within 1 month of being unable to pay for my mortgage. A few, less than 5.
Oh, wow.
$100 left in my banking account this time last year, Cornell.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had to buy presents and everything for my family, pay bills, the whole 9 yards.
And make sure everybody understands. We're not whining here.
No.
We're telling you why.
This is the back office stuff.
We're telling you why
Might as
we
well get into it.
lose advocates that we could capitalize on their knowledge to try to clone what successes they have achieved to duplicate it in other places and other states. And I got to be honest with you. There's times where people have really demanded that I come to their state and no one was willing to pass the hat to help me get the plane ticket and hotel and rental car. All right. So as an end result, I didn't go because I had to pay for my commercial rent for my business. I had to pay for my mortgage for my house. I had to pay for people in my office and I couldn't even pay myself.
Yeah, I'm not going to go home.
That didn't come for free because you was doing the right thing.
But guess what, though? Our opposition, these heavily funded women's organizations, they put in a funding structure model. They have full-time fundraisers.
They see the
have
bigger picture.
They have governance. They have full-time lobbyists. Not one. They have multiple. They have a presence in DC before every congressional session, and they have teams working on projects to collect data and research to support their point of views year round. And there's only so much you can do running on passion only and volunteers. Look, if I'm paying for a team that is available to work on the project 40 hours a week, and there's a governance structure in place with leadership to make sure that what the mission is supposed to be doing, it is doing what the team is doing. Because look, if you don't monitor it, you can't be sure it's accomplishing what it needs to do, right? You got to have a leadership structure in place. You got to have governance in place. You got to be clear on there is some sort of public outreach. There has to be a fundraising arm, inviting people to the movement, telling them what's needed and how they could develop a chapter or support group. Look, there's groups right now that are up and running that could help with some other states, and they'll tell you, we don't have any volunteers in that state. We don't have anybody in those states willing to support the mission.
I went to some of those states myself, and there was several times I was standing there and talking to these legislators like, why in the world am I in Nebraska? Why am I in Maine? Why am I in Rhode Island? Because I was trying to get the conversation and finding out if these legislators would carry this legislation forward. And there was many of them that would do it, but they needed somebody to grab the ball and to run with it. And I'm going to tell you how bad it is. But for the ones that are here that really want to hear this, I'm glad you're here. But when we started talking about funding and what needs to be done, we lost half of our viewers. I watched it in the counter because the movement doesn't want to hear that part. Look, guys, I'll tell you, I'm just going to give it to you straight. Look, past 3 years, I've done pretty good getting these issues into the political arena, right? CPACs, turning points. At any point in time, I could have said, I'm just going to go make me a political podcast because you know what? There's some money in that. And I got some connections. If I really wanted to make money, I'll go talk about that because I wouldn't have the drama from this movement and I could just go and be divisive because that's what sells. I believe in this, man. I believe in this. And the reason that we talk about our wives so much, look, I gotta put my own self in check. When we was talking about walking a mile in somebody else's shoes, if I would have been her last year, looking at me doing all this work, going across the country, and I knew that all she had was $100 in her banking account after doing all this work, I don't know that I would have been, baby, it's okay, but you're working towards your dream. You're working towards your passion. I don't know if I could have done that. Because I would have been stressing, like, how are we going to pay the bills? We got to get Christmas. We got to do this. No, man, she believed in me. She believed in me just as much then as she does now. And that's what we're here for. But if this movement wants to get serious, we'll start organizing. We need people that specialize in child support and Title IV reform. We need people that specialize in CPS, paternity fraud, false allegations. All of these different subjects need their subject matter experts. They need organizations, 501c3s, 501c4s, like Carnell's talking about, that where I think Dad Talk could come in is we could come in and say, we're going to make media. We're going to promote the issue, get people to the table. And then I can say, hey, you're going over to National Parents Organization because you're wanting to get involved in shared parenting. Or, hey, you're going over here to Carnell Smith because he is the expert in paternity fraud and he wants to create more of him. And then we start funneling these guys to the places where they get training and they become actual advocates and not just voices on Facebook. But it needs funding. And it needs people to actually start doing something. So to the ones that's constantly, Eric, what are you going to do with Dad Talk? What are you going to do for the solution? Right now, we're waiting on you. Is that the smoke? That's what we're waiting on. We're waiting on you. No, you shouldn't have to do this.
Look, you don't see our opposition saying, well, we're 100% volunteer with zero financial support.
Dude, Paul said, don't abandon us. The whole world already has, dude. That's what it feels like sometimes when we're sitting there saying, hey, you wanted us to fight for you. We're fighting for you. Where are you at?
I'm thinking,
are
Tyrone.
You really going to sit there and let my family burn and my business? And I have no retirement. I have no help. Are you going to let me burn so that I can get out there and fight for these guys? You want me to care for you, but you don't want to care for the ones that are doing it. Guys, that's just the thing. And I'm not trying to go down on anybody that's
we're just saying
really
what's needed.
The show. Most of these people that I'm seeing in here, they're going to be here every episode, and we're going to be pulling their names up before the show even gets started, man. And I know that, and I thank you guys. But there's millions of us. I would dare say maybe even a billion. Men are half the world. There is tons of us.
8 out of 10 non-custodial parents or dads. There's more of us than there are on the other side. The difference is on their side, they organized decades ago when they were pushing for legislation and that led to Title 4D that causes these problems. And at that time, there were no men's groups at the table to talk about what was going to happen to men and boys. Dr.
while
Warren
we're
Farrell, Dr. Warren Farrell was there in a lot of those. But guess what? There's only so much he could do by himself.
Pascal made a comment down there.
Well,
Eric.
can I pull back Wizard of Oz and
Pull it
what's
back.
going on behind the scenes? Let's do it, because I want you guys to know I was this close to quitting because I wasn't letting you know how bad it got. You understand?
Yeah.
This close to quitting because you didn't know the challenges that it was to fight for this movement. Pasquale said, Eric, you were spot on. I wish I had a few grand to put in. How about concerts to raise funds? I did that. I did that last year. Guys, why do you think I only had $100 left in my banking account? There was somebody that believed in it, but they said, I can't give a bunch of money to this movement. I'll give you some money to go make money. I put on one and we lost. Our advocates didn't show up. This whole past year, I haven't been able to pay myself because I was paying back money from where I tried to make money so I could go fight for you. Now, you tell me anybody else in their right mind that's going to do that. That's because I believe in this thing. And the whole time I'm doing this, I've got other organizations out there that should have been locking arms with us, claiming that I'm making $80,000 a month because they didn't want Dad Talk to exist because they were afraid that we might get a dollar that their hands ain't on. And I tell you, Cornell, you know this. I could have sued the pants off of them because I'll open up my banking account from now until the beginning of time. I have not made no $80,000 a month. We didn't even make that last year, guys. We didn't. $120,000 came into Dad Talk. I think it was 112 that went towards 43 states, airplanes, hotels, rental cars, food. Political conferences.
Yeah.
Guys, when we go to political conferences, they ain't, and most of the time they're at these nice hotels. They're not at the Red Roof. When I can get the Red Roof, that's where I go.
Yeah.
I can tell you that's what we do. But that's what it costed to get there. Then I went on Southwest. I used to pull up my airplane receipts and post it like, look at what this is costing. I got criticized for that. Like, we didn't ask you to do that. And then they'll ask you to do that. But I put it up on there, and then like, why are you flying Southwest? Why aren't you flying Spirit? You know why? Because I have to carry this whole studio with me, and I've got 3 big old bags that I'm carrying across the country to turn on that microphone and speak to these politicians for you. And my bags are free on Southwest, which if I pay for them on Spirit would be twice the ticket. But we shouldn't have to be explaining that to you. You should be already seeing the work that's being done. This is where the movement gets just as petty as these moms talking about soccer balls, right? We're going to need a lot more than an airplane ticket and a hotel and stuff if you want to fight this opposition. It's Goliath, man.
Yeah.
It is Goliath.
Eric does have to eat, and he needs the rental car to get from the airport with that gear.
I mean, dude. And so somebody, why aren't you helping me talk to this? Do you know how many people are in the inbox right now saying I need to talk to you and I need to tell my story?
Tons.
Yeah.
And your stories, dude, I am not putting it down. That's why we gave you the voicemail line, but they're the same. It's the same in, it's the same out. And we're on this. Everybody's why me, why me, why me? Fight for somebody else, man. If we want to act like it's a movement, we need to organize and be a movement. We do. That's it, man. And if you really want it to happen, don't ask me why I'm not doing it. I've been doing it for the past several years, almost to the point to where I let myself burn to keep other people warm. We can't do that no more. Carnell, you can't do that anymore. You almost lost everything you've got fighting for this.
Yeah, I did.
Dwayne, how much money you made fighting for this movement?
Made? No, I'm usually negative about 5,000-6,000 a year. Web space, going to places. I don't ask for donations because I've seen what people do to you. And I'm like, I ain't touching it. So I eat it all. But there's only so much I can do. I can't get a billboard. I can't there's so many things I can't do because for a pissed off parent, it is self-funded.
See?
But why isn't this thing? Why aren't we getting millions of views? Why aren't we on these big talk shows? Why aren't we doing this? Carnell, I'm sure it took you a while and it took some money to get to the point to where you get invited to Dr. Phil, huh?
I paid for my own PR, and it was my publicist that pitched the story that led. But what you don't know is that took almost 5 months of work to set that show up. And by the way, if you aren't already doing things and demonstrating your ability to work with major media, you don't get to start there. They contact you. You hear what I'm saying?
Right.
They contacted my publishers because of the other stuff that I had already done.
They see the 10 million likes, they see the million subscribers, and they're like, "Hey, we need to capitalize on that."
Let me give you a kind of a reference here. I've done over 225 radio, television, magazine. I'm in Time magazine.
Yeah.
I'm in Reason magazine. I actually even did a piece for the National Enquirer that my own PR team was like, "Oh man, we'll think you should do this one," and it turned out to be a great story. Because once I brought them the data and they fact checked it and they found out, man, this guy's not lying. I end up on the Hispanic network. Even though my Spanish is not quite that fluent, they asked me, said, "Well, do you know any Spanish speaking paternity fraud victims?" I said, "How many do you need and in what flavor? You need married, you need single, you need military being, how many you want?" I even did a story in People magazine. Now, because of all of that media set the stage, that they saw that I wasn't doing something crazy like saying, you need to go out there and harm all of these moms who did this horrible injustice and wrong and made this guy here go spend 5 years in prison. Now, you gotta be mindful of how you present things. And you got to be mindful of what it looks like. What are the optics? You got to be mindful. Okay, what is the high level mission, right? And are you comfortable in going to get someone who is just as passionate, who is opposed to you, and you do a debate with them publicly on national television?
I want to do it right now. But no, I mean, it's just like, I'm even questioning myself, like, should I let that out? But there was many times, dude, I was that close because we weren't letting our people know this, right?
Yep.
This movement has had so much infighting and so much disorganization that it stumbles upon itself. I even go into the men's rights and fathers' rights can be two different areas. You go into the men's rights world. Oh my God, dude, it's constantly smears against other people. Okay.
Yep.
You want to get into the professional world. The psychologist, who's going to get it into the ICD or to the DSM-5. The infighting is what's keeping us back, and a lack of funds, not because there's not people there with great ideas that can make it happen. I guarantee you right now, if I had some money, I'd hire Carnell and I'd find about 10 passionate guys that are good. They are legit, and say, man, train them. Let's get them out there. Let's get them in the field. We'll get some of that major media. We'll get some of this other stuff, and we will get a respect that we never have. Unfortunately, right now, what do we got? Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, some of the same tools that if people don't show up and they're not hearing their stories talked about, they don't want to watch the show. Okay. I'm just preaching to you here. And we do what we can, but we could be treated different if more people participated. And they would stop the infighting. Guys, if we don't organize now, you're going to hate to see what it's going to look like when your kids get older and you have grandkids. We're fighting for the next generation right now.
Where they literally can try to change your girl into a make-believe boy and try to change your boy into a make-believe girl.
We got enough opposition. And I'm going to tell you, it's going to take some organizing. I don't want to be a fundraiser. But you know what? We're going to need funds to do it. If there's somebody that's good at that would love to come to the table, bring some ideas. We'd like to see it. That shouldn't come with a clause. Like, you got to have me on the show, or you got to have this conversation with, you know what, dude, we're trying to get to as many people as we can. Let's start creating these other groups and become the movement that we were called to be. I believe it can happen. And if this happened, dude, a $60 billion a year industry, I guarantee you, and I'll make this promise. If I had $1 million, just $1 million, I'm just not going to end it, but I would give them a black eye, buddy. I give them a black eye like they've never seen before, because I know what I've done with the pennies.
Yeah.
I know what I did with the little pennies that I had, that if I actually had a budget that we could do this thing with and we could get the right team, you'd see this thing get out there. And look, guys, when you start making some headway in this space, that opposition doesn't go away or just say good job.
It's worse.
They ramp up. When when you started making some ground, is that when the false allegations came against you in family court?
Yes, it did.
What do they want to do? Eric, we talked to his ex-girlfriend, or we talked to somebody like this. We went back to his middle school and saw that he was smoking, or that he kissed a girl. Dude, they're gonna find any little thing they can to smear you. And then that's what they do. And I know that's gonna happen. I know that's going to happen. Dude, I didn't know that the trials that Paul Elam went through until I went and saw one of the smear articles they was trying to put him through. And I had to sit there and say, you know what? That's probably what's going to come my way. And then you're not making money. You're headbutting with these politicians and stuff. Why are you here? Because I believe in it. And you know what? At the end of the day, gentlemen, that daughter of mine, I hope you see what your daddy did.
Yeah.
Anybody that tells you I didn't fight, I gave it everything I got. I couldn't fight financially in the courts, but I got out there. I wasn't just sitting. And that's what everybody should be saying. If you can't financially support, you can show up. You can like, you can share, you can subscribe. Do you know how much of an embarrassment it was for me to be interviewing a politician, somebody that ran for governor and was a very strong voice? He's been on Rogan and everything to say, Eric, I fought for your people. And none of them showed up. I knew that they couldn't contribute. I am a candidate. I do need money. I do need votes because that's what gets us into office. But that doesn't make me fake. I believe in the issues. I talked about it, but they didn't even show up. They didn't support. They didn't like. They didn't share. They didn't even help me get the message out. He said, I'm still going to talk about it because I believe in it. But what is going on with your movement? And I said, all I can do is turn on the camera because I feel the same frustrations, guys.
Exactly.
I feel the same frustrations. We feel it too.
Yes.
We're on here, been 3.5 hours. We could have been spending with our family, but we're out here fighting for yours just as much as we are ours. Could you please join the dance?
And can I say this, Eric?
Yes.
Because I was able to get such major, overwhelming support from my state legislature. Listen, my chief sponsor for the legislation that we got passed, he and I belong to two different political parties. I'm a registered conservative. He's a registered Democrat. Both of us understood the issue was nonpartisan. So I repeat, when I've gone before state legislators, I've never made these issues about partisan politics. These are human rights issues. And that's what everybody could get on board with. And if we said that, well, hey, I won't get involved with so-and-so then because they belong to an opposite party than the one I support. You got to work with the person who's elected into that seat. Otherwise, if you say you're only going to wait until there's somebody in that seat from the party that you happen to be your favorite, you could wait a long time. Listen, we were so effective that we got vote support from Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, and even some people who are, quote, quote, registered communists. 163-0 from my House of Representatives. Did you hear that? 45-5 in my Senate. And the governor was a Democrat. I'm a registered conservative. It didn't matter to him what my party was. He saw victims. He saw people who were hurting. He saw the numerous times that as our movement gained more, the more media we did, the more people came out. And I was telling people, okay, if you can't support, you can't contribute toward helping us pay for our press releases and the other stuff that we're doing, can you show up? And guess what? Those people showed up because they were invited. And we got many of them to make victim impact statements before the legislators. And a lot of our legislators were in tears. Do you hear what I'm saying? They couldn't believe what was happening in family court. But as a result, now I say to you, a lot of the people in the Dad Talk community, you dads, I'm talking to you. A lot of your judges right now are not the judges who caused these problems. A lot of your state lawmakers that are in the office now are not the ones that caused this problem. And a lot of those people in those two groups I just talked about, they were the kid who was cut off from their dad by their mom. And a lot of them pursued that position in legislature or in the judicial branch to be somebody who could be a voice. without doing something outside of the scope of their, quote, quote, canons of duty, because you're not supposed to be able to legislate from the bench. And I use that word loosely. All right. But a lot of them became part of the area where they are because they wanted to make a difference, to be somebody who truly would advocate for the best interests of the kid, starting with barring any verifiable evidence. They would support kids having frequent, consistent contact with a rebuttable presumption of equal shared parenting as the beginning. And then you go up or down from that point, rather than non-custodial dads who are single fathers don't have any rights, depending on most states, unless he takes some extraordinary effort to do an order of affiliation or legitimation to be recognized as a legal father of the child. You say, but I pay child support. Depending on what state and what you have signed and agreed to, that may only sign you up for duties and responsibilities to pay, not parenting time. I've talked to dads again and again, even now in 2022, who think that because he pays child support, I have a right to see my kid. Well, if you are unmarried and based on the, Troxel v. Granville decision, yeah, on paper, you should, but what do your state laws say? And have you used remedies that are already available? Kind of hard to do that when you don't know what's available, right?
At the end of the day, when you get off her dead bus and get in there and start fighting, everyone here, like, share, subscribe. That's free. Tell your buddies about it. When you're on the phone with so-and-so, let them know. Get in there. I mean, we don't need thousands. I mean, it'd be great to get thousands from one person. $5 a month tells Eric, I've got this to work with, a consistent amount.
But dude, I mean, I look back again last year, $100 I take and try to do something outside of the movement to make money to come put back into something that I'm not making money from. And I screw myself this whole past year, guys. I'm in debt for this movement. Right. And I'm not doing that to get anything. I was stupid for not putting a business structure there. I should have had a business structure. That's on me. I've learned. I am going to get the merchandise and stuff out there. And I'm not ashamed to say it because I need it to be able to carry this message forward. You understand? That's what I learned from you, Carnell.
Good.
You know what? I still had to go dip my toes into it a little bit. Good. But we've got to get the structure there. And I think it's time for the movement to hear some of the real challenges. If you leave when these conversations come up, you don't really want solutions. That's all I'm going to tell you. If you don't have the money to contribute, you'll find a way to get in here and get some fundraisers or find somebody that will. We have got to become the well-oiled machine just like they are. And until that happens, I don't think there's going to be any real movement. But like we said, you can't just sit there with your head stuck between your legs. You got to keep working. But eventually it comes to a point where you say, I can't do it anymore.
Yep.
And I don't ever want to see that happen. I mean,
but I understand the people who end up having to walk away because it is so emotionally upsetting that they literally get PTSD and it causes them an emotional event every time they have to go to court. And they're literally worried about, am I going to be able to walk out of here without being in handcuffs? I completely understand. This is where it's so powerful to connect with the Dad Talk community to find out, how have other people gotten what I've been trying to get? Because if I keep doing it the same way I've been doing it, what really is going to change?
Well,
nothing.
The attacks you get from the movement within itself, guys. I mean, and some people will call it ego. I'll say, oh, he's just got an ego. Why has it got to be him? I don't want it to be me. I could go find something else to do. So if you can do it, then you do it. But I'll tell you this, I do have to sit back and look. Who else got us on Media Row? Who else got these celebrities and stuff that people were begging for? And then when I get the celebrities and the different people talking about it, oh, he just wants to be famous because he's not telling my story. Every way you turn, there's going to be a criticism. You can't let people's criticisms get to you guys. No. You can't. You just got to get out there and you got to fight. But fighting for this community is one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life. And if our people would actually organize and be a real movement, a movement gets movement. Where's our movement? I want to feel movement. I think we are all desiring it right now. We're all hungry for change. And don't let anybody tell you that it can't change. Those are people that just don't want to do anything. They will find a problem for every solution. Are you going to be the person that's going to find the problem for the solution? Or are you going to come in here and say, you know what? This is where I can contribute. If I can't do it with money, I'll do it with my time. If I can't show up because I'm at work, hell, we had the guy earlier today that said, we've got you on in the mechanic shop and everybody's listening. That's the kind of stuff. The boys around the campfire saying, we're coming in here and we're helping. There is always a way that you can help. And for my brother right there, that is another way, because we do got to get out of here and nature's still calling. I got to pee.
Yeah.
This book right here, he put a lot of time into doing that. Support this book. You know who you're supporting. You see what he's on here doing. Carnell, did you make a big paycheck for being on here this week and dropping all that knowledge that it took you years to get?
Nothing. Absolutely.
Dwayne, did you? No, I didn't either.
Personal satisfaction for being able to be on with you and Dwayne.
It's not shaming the community. It's telling you the truth. And until you guys show up, we are where we can be. I'm not giving up.
No.
I'm not giving up. I might have to pull back on what I can do.
Yep.
Yeah.
But we can do a lot more if other people participated. And if it doesn't happen, don't blame it on us. We're telling you right now. Is that a good place to end it, fellas?
Yeah, man, that's a good place to tell them, stay cool, Dad. Don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on life. Protect yourself, gentlemen, at all times. Learn how to be on offense.
That's it. See you guys tomorrow.
Never